Welcome to my world. I'm your host, Kevin Rutherford. It is Monday, November 20th. We are live. We're going to open the phone lines right now. We've got a lot going on this morning. I got up early this morning, not early enough. I did wake up the first time at 5 o'clock, just like I had planned on, but somehow I fell back asleep, and when I opened my eyes again, it was 7 o'clock, and I was still in Destin. So I thought I wasn't going to be able to make it over to Fleet Air Filter. And then I looked at it and thought, you know what? If I just hustle, I think I can make it. So I hustled and I'm here. And because of that, David Counts, the founder of Fleet Air Filters, is here with me. David, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Great. I hustled over here from Destin this morning and I made it just in time. And I'm all set up here at your place.
Hey, that's pretty cool. You know, the last time we did this, I think, was the first time you ever done it.
I was thinking that as I was heading here this morning. The very first show we ever did from an RV was here in your parking lot because you sold me the RV and installed the satellite system and built me a studio, and we tested it one night here, one day. We did the show on the weekend, and you know what I remember about it? We had a crazy thunderstorm. It was the thunder and lightning through the whole show was just rattling the RV. It was such a wild storm, but we got through it. Everything worked great, and we've been doing it ever since.
Well, hopefully we don't have no thunderstorm today. I think there's rain later tonight, but hopefully we'll get to pass that this time.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to get too wild. So things look a little different around here too since the last time I was here.
Man, it's a lot different between new buildings and new machines, and it's the same old parking lot though. I mean, we stay pretty busy. You know, we usually keep, I don't know, somewhere around 40 to 60 units on the yard all the time. So, you know, it's a good problem to have. We're blessed to have what we have. So
every time I come here, you are just slammed. I mean, you've got a big parking lot, but it never looks like it because it tests your driving skills to move around in here.
Absolutely.
So what's new and exciting with Fleet Air Filters? It sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on.
I think most people know we actually moved Fleet to Alabama now. We do everything in-house except for the spinning of the aluminum round filters. All the oblong and all that stuff, this all machined here in-house. We're doing our own foam now. We sew everything here. It's gotten better as far as like being able to control a little more of our inventory and stuff. We're still at some mercy on like our spun pieces, of course, because they're done actually in Indiana. But it's better. I mean, I don't think we keep as many back orders as we used to keep, and hopefully it's getting better. You know, that's the main thing. But it's good. I mean, you know, it's we have new filters on the drawing board. Our $25.99, which is the international filter, it's becoming really popular. I guess the main thing there is that they just don't have the OEMs in stock. I mean, I think that's a big problem. But it's funny how you take one filter and all of a sudden it just grows. You know, like it's like our 3518 was our most popular filter for years, and it's still the most popular filter. But the $25.99 is catching it. So
okay. Yeah, boy, it's nice to say now they're hand built here in Alabama.
Yes, everything's hand built. We don't have but 3 people that put some together. So our quality control's pretty good. I mean, we don't make very many mistakes, but you know we're not perfect. But and everything is usually we build the filters and we have housings we actually try them in. So they have to be 100% before they leave the shop.
Awesome. So all we have to figure out now is if we can manage to squeeze one into this coach somehow.
We can do it.
We'll figure. I'm sure you can. You could do just about it. You know, every time I come here, I always feel like hanging out for a couple weeks because there's always cool stuff you could do on my coach. But I know how busy you guys are too.
Yeah, we can make anything happen on them. I've put air intake systems on them before in the past, and we've. Like some of the coaches have like a non-serviceable filter, that's in a housing, and we take those housings and pull them apart, and then we make a replacement filter that actually fits that housing.
Oh, okay.
I do a bunch of those. I probably do probably 10 to 20 of those a month. I mean, that's kind of average.
Yeah, that's quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty good for the motorhome,
That kind of has to just be all word of mouth, right?
It is on that, because I don't really push that a whole bunch,
Right.
But being that we're kind of in the motorhome world too, I mean, I guess probably say 2 or 3 a month that comes in. I mean, they want them.
Yeah.
They're telling their friends, and it just escalates from there.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, I was in an RV park, like I've been a lot on this trip, and I could make a living just traveling around and parking in RV parks and helping guys with, we could tune, because I've got the remote tune set up from Pittsburgh Power with me, your filters. There's a lot we could help them with. Here's the other thing about them, and you know this, they've got money. I mean, the big coaches, if they're out here running, that money's not that big of an issue for them. So, I've even tried to talk them out of some upgrades. We'll be talking about it, and I'll explain it to them, and I'll go, look, you're only putting a couple thousand miles a year on your coach. It's just not going to be worth it. Well, I want one anyway. That's usually the attitude.
We see that a lot. I mean, people come in and they want certain things done to them. Well, in my world, everything has to be feasible.
Right.
And so, if a guy wants to come in, he wants to spend $2,500 on putting the air intake system on and putting a filter in his coach, it's just not feasible. I mean, but on the other hand, for what he gains, I think that he feels that, over a 2 or 3 year period, it would pay for itself, which it will. But we expect to pay for our filter in 3 months, if it's in a semi. So,
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, same thing. I mean, even with an OPS. I mean, I love the idea of an OPS on the coach, but I haven't bothered to put one on yet because I just don't need to change the oil that often. And it's not even the cost. It's just the time of getting back there and doing it. And you can't really cost justify it. I don't change the oil all that often anyway. So a lot of it is just pure cost. I mean, I'd like to have a fast system on this. But again, I'll never recover the cost.
No, I think the biggest thing that I could see in a coach that would help is like your remote tuning.
Yeah.
Because most of the coaches are so down on power. And I mean, if you're running a big hill, I mean, they're wide open trying to get up them. So the fuel consumption is out the roof. If you had more power and you could get up at a half throttle, I could see a benefit. But
yeah, mine had gotten to the point where it was just a dog. I mean, it's rated factory rating at 525 horsepower. That should be plenty for the kind of weight we're pulling around. And I was struggling to get up some hills with if I had the trailer behind me. So the last time I was at Pittsburgh Power, and I spent a couple weeks there, and I really had time. I would pull it in at night when everybody was gone and work on it. And it went through and found every boost leak. And you know how hard that is on one of these. You can't get to any of the piping that has the boost leaks.
Yeah, on a motorhome, and there is just no room to do anything. I mean, you have to be a little bitty guy to get up inside of them and work on them. Thank God we have Ron that works here.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you should hire ex jockeys.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So, with enough time, we figured it out. I had to tear the bedroom apart and go down through the top on some, and then take wheels off so we could get up through the wheel wells and other places, and put a whole new charger cooler in it, and fixed all the boost leaks, took that plugged up catalytic converter off. I don't know, you probably didn't even really notice if you hear me coming in. This has got straight pipes now. There's no muffler on this.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Of course,
you really don't.
Backing in when I was pulling in. So.
Yeah, it's surprising that second turbo, because this is an Acer with the twin turbos, that second turbo really knocks down the noise quite a bit.
Right. I could see that.
In the driver's seat, I can't tell a bit of difference going down the highway. I just can't hear anything, just like before. The only difference now is when the Jake brake comes on, it's got a really nice rumble.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. And it freed up that exhaust, and now I think we've got this tuned to maybe somewhere between 650 and 700 horsepower, and it is just a pleasure to drive, and my fuel economy went up.
See, like, in my toter, It's got the little Mercedes. I say little Mercedes. It's got the 500 Mercedes in it, and that thing gets 6 miles to the gallon, loaded, unloaded,
I know.
uphill, downhill. It don't matter.
I know. It's same here. The weak link in these things, the biggest problem is that transmission. It's smooth, it shifts really nice, but it is horribly inefficient.
Yeah. And I think with my motorhome, of course, your motorhome is pretty heavy itself. I mean, mine's extremely heavy. Then we stack the trailer on back of it. And, it's 87 foot long.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
And then, I guess it's got so much wind drag on it that it's just crazy. But
it is.
It's kind of funny. I'll run down, like in the south, and, the roads are pretty flat. We don't have a lot of hills. And it gets 6.2, 6.4 in that window. If I leave here and I go towards Montgomery, and once I pass Montgomery and I'm starting to get into Birmingham and all that, it drops to like 5 miles to the gallon.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And like we were talking about, it's really not worth trying to do the modifications to fix it.
It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not feasible. I mean, of course, it's got a fleet air filter in it, but, that's all I've done to it. And I think we put synthetics in the front end and the rear end, but, that's pretty much the only thing that's been done to it. And it did help it. I mean, I picked up, another half mile per gallon just by doing those two things to it. But, from 5.5 to 6, it's not a whole lot.
No, it's really not. If you're running 100,000 miles a year, that's a significant savings. If you're running less than 10,000, it's just not worth the cost savings. And then the other issue, I doubt that I could reasonably put an OPS and a FAS on this. There's no room.
That's true, too. Yeah, the engine compartment in those things is extremely tight.
Yeah. Yeah, so I am happy with it. I just had it mine was in the shop for 10 months. Did a bunch of new stuff inside and out. It was just time for a refresh. I'm at almost 200,000 miles on this thing, and most of these never see that kind of mileage.
Yeah, most motorhomes that I see come in has less than 100,000 on them. If I had to say an average, I'd say really an average is about 50,000.
Yeah.
What we probably see that comes in the door. But usually at that point, they're, 8-10 years old,
exactly,
or even older.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's never a fact you're going to wear it out. It's always a fact that just don't get used.
Yep. So this morning was kind of an unusual morning. I didn't tell you I was coming. You and I haven't talked in a while, probably since the last time you were on the show. I just headed this way, and I figured when I got close enough and I knew I was going to make it, I'd give you a call. You woke up and you were thinking about me this morning. How crazy is that?
This is the craziest thing. I actually last night I had read some stuff on the AI stuff, and because I'm like everybody, I'm always interested in anything, So
yeah.
And I was kind of intrigued by it. And I woke up this morning. I ain't talked to Kevin in a while. 20 minutes later, my phone rings and it's you. I'm like, man, did AI kick in? Or what?
Yeah, they're listening. They're listening to our thoughts now. Before, I think you had to say something and then you would get 10 ads for it the next day. Now it's like you just think something and it happens. It's a little scary.
It is. That is so crazy. I mean, and I even told Pam this morning. I was talking to her. So I was thinking about Kevin last night, or this morning, And then you called, and I walked out, and I said, "Hey, you ain't gonna believe who that was." And she said, "Who?" I said, "That was Kevin." I'm like, she said, "Oh my God, really?" I said, "Yes." But I can remember. Just recently we had some. We got a huge customer base, and so. We was at like Walmart the other day walking through, and I said, I hadn't heard of so-and-so lately, And then we get back to the shop, and they're there at the shop waiting on us. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like we talked them up or something.
Something, yeah. I know. The other thing, I built a new Freightliner back in 2005, put all kinds of crazy technology on it, the Smart Cruise and a bunch of other stuff. That truck, I have told this story so many times. When I ordered it, it was supposed to come in with a non-emission Mercedes. It was the only reason I ordered a Mercedes, because they were the last manufacturer that was building non-emission engines. So I ordered one. And the problem was that at the time, every other fleet in the country was ordering those and trying to get their non-emissions, and my order kept getting pushed back, and they kept filling the fleet orders. By the time they built mine, they were out of non-emission engines, so I ended up with an emission engine, and they were out of transmissions, and I ended up with a Meritor, which I didn't order. And both of those things turned out to be the biggest nightmare for me. I had more problems with that truck than probably any other truck I've owned. And then, of course, I sold it to you. By that time, we had worked out most of the problems. It had been on FedEx for years, so it had quite a few miles on it. I took it off FedEx, and we were pulling our toy hauler with it for a while. And then I swapped it out for that Volvo I bought. You know, so many stories keep coming up that originated here. You bought that truck from me and just sold it on this past Friday, you just told me. The other thing I'm thinking of, when I sold that one to you and I bought that Volvo, that was the one I put a rod through the side of the block pulling into your parking lot.
Yes, I remember that. That's crazy. Well, the little Freightliner, the cool thing about it, I mean, I pulled our race car hauler with that thing for, I don't know, probably a year or two, maybe I'd say 2 years. Then I took it, we parked it, then we got into hauling empty containers, just like moving them to job sites and, power plants and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we reclassed it because I had classed it as a recreational.
Right.
So we reclassed it back to go into the working world, and we started hauling containers with it. Well, I had that truck and I had a Peterbilt at the same time. So the Peterbilt, it wasn't a stretch Pete, it was a short Pete, but it did have the tandems up under it.
Mm-hmm.
The little Freightliner would work circles around that truck.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean that as far as like you could get in somewhere and that thing would turn on a dime turning in. I mean, it was just super tight radius. I never had any problems out of it. And me and you talked before, I think you said something about the fuel line would crack and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Never had that. The only problem that I've ever had out of it, and we just discussed this earlier, is that I had put new batteries in it, and I had the batteries disconnected for a couple of days because I was waiting on the people to bring me the batteries, and put them in, and the transmission don't shift now. It shifts manually, but it won't shift automatically. So
at some point, it'll start shifting correctly again. We just don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah. I think that maybe what's happened is it's lost its memory in the computer for the transmission controller. I mean,
yeah, it seems like it.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and that was a problem. It had that Meritor that they only sold in this country for a year or two. Then there was a big lawsuit with Eaton, and so they stopped selling the Meritor, and they also stopped servicing it. You can't find anybody that knows how to work on those things. So I had a nightmare with that transmission and spent a fortune on it and never really did get it fixed.
That's crazy. Like I say, I never had a minute's problem out of it. We probably put 60,000 miles on it, I guess, the whole time I've had it, because most of the areas that we go is less than 100 miles away from our office. So
yeah, I probably put 30,000 on it after I took it off FedEx, pulling the toy hauler around, and I never had a problem either. But 3 times over the years, I had to have it towed back in a long way because it would just lock into top gear, and nothing you would do. You could disconnect the batteries, you could do whatever you wanted. When you put it all back together, it was still in top gear.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's got to be something with a controller or something in it doing that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It seems like those transmissions are extremely heavy built, though.
Yeah, I think they were. I mean, I think it was a good transmission. It had a lot of potential. When it worked, I was happy with the performance of it. It's just when it didn't work and you couldn't get anybody that knew anything about it, it was just frustrating.
We had to put a PTO on it to run our hydraulic pump for our container trailer.
Oh, okay.
And I ended up calling the place that made the pump system for it, and I told him what transmission's in it, and his words were, "What is it again?"
Yep.
That's just a Meritor.
Yep.
He's like, "Oh my God, I don't know if we make a kit for it." Luckily, he had a kit in stock that would fit that Meritor.
Really? Boy, what are the odds of that? Yeah.
That was like slim to none.
Yeah.
And I think the guy even made a comment. I don't think I've ever sold one of those. I said,
I'll
yeah,
bet not. Yeah. Interesting. So you were telling me this morning you got some new filters on the drawing board.
Yep, we got a few new filters on the drawing board, which I have honestly I probably have about 15 of them. We just try to take our phone calls. When people call and they say, hey, I got a 2023 Pete, I need a filter, and then we just kind of log that. Then that's the filter we'll build. We do it based off the phone calls that we receive, or the people going on our website or emailing us or
Yeah.
whatever. Because I don't build a filter. First of all, most people know us. If I can't make that filter work and be a benefit to you, I don't build it.
And when you say that, I want to clarify. One of the benefits to your filter is it's a lifetime filter. So, I mean, there's a savings in the filter, and also it filters better than a paper filter does. So there's two benefits to every filter you would build, in my mind. What you're saying is you also want that third benefit of increased airflow that you can see.
Right. So if I can't see that, or I can't physically see any kind of improvement over the OEM, at this point, I just shut it off. I just won't build it. Now, that doesn't mean I won't never build it, because I may have a better idea, 6 months or 8 months or 2 years later.
Right.
I may actually get where I can say, okay, instead of putting a cone in it, we can, change the direction of air by lightening the foam up itself, But it's most people, I get people that calls me and they're upset. Well, you don't make a filter for my truck, but I can't be a benefit to you.
Right. Yeah. So, it's kind of interesting. I've said this before. After I met you and we really started focusing on the filter, the housing, the airflow, all that stuff that you focus on every filter, I came to the conclusion, I think the air filter and the housing is like the last piece of the puzzle the engineers work on. And it's just the whole truck's built. Now, where can we squeeze in an air filter? It seems like that's how they build these things. And then you go in and say, oh, hold on, we can improve this.
Well, what we see a whole lot of is that, they put these 600 horse motors in their truck. Then at the last minute, like you said, they try to stuff a filter in it. Well, then they put a filter that's really only good for about a 300 horse.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm not sure how they get their numbers sometimes, because, are they generating the numbers off of an engine dyno, just with a generic filter on it, and they say, okay, this motor's making 600 horsepower. Or do they literally have the motors in there and they go to a chassis dyno and they actually dyno the motor with the hood down,
right,
in real world areas? I'm a big dyno guy. I build a lot of motors. I dyno a lot of motors. I can tell you, heat has a lot to do with a naturally aspirated carburetor or fuel-injected motor, gas.
Right.
Just clean air, period, or clean filters, period, is a huge difference.
Yes.
With the semis, I see like our air intake tubes, they make them too long, or they neck them down too far, or they put a T pipe in them instead of a Y pipe.
Yes.
And that's a huge difference. It's on the flow bench. When you've seen it, you would like, why did they even make a T pipe?
Right. Yeah. You're forcing air to make a 90-degree turn.
Yeah, on a sharp edge.
Right. Yeah. It's awful.
So if they would make it, like a 10-inch radius or an 8-inch radius, in a 6-inch pipe, the airflow is so different than a 90-degree with a sharp edge. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's the beauty of what you do. You get in there and focus on every aspect of that intake, the filter, the flow. And like you said, if you work on one, you can't really produce enough improvement in that airflow. You just don't build that filter.
No. And sometimes, things I see, Kevin, is like the air intake box or the housing is pretty good. But then they get a aerodynamic truck and they shut the hood, then it's breathing through the sides of the hood. Well, you can't even get your hand, if you take the screen off on the outside, you can't even get your hand through it. So if you dyno the truck with the hood down, you got one number.
Mm-hmm.
You raise the hood and you dyno it again, and you got another number. Well, that goes to show you that the hood is the restriction.
Yep.
I mean, another thing that's huge that I focused on a whole lot back in the day was, they got the grills over the hood vent, right? It's just a decorative piece.
Right.
All it is. So if you took that piece and you drew it out, like in my computer, if I drew it out, then I wanted to know how much that decorative piece actually deflects air, you would fall out of your chair. Because if you take that and you condense it down and you only have a hole that's 8 inches, but then you condense the piece down as a solid and put it over the hole, it's covering half the hole.
Wow.
So now we're at 4 inches.
Yeah.
They expect a 600 horse motor to breathe on a 4-inch air tube. No, it don't work that way.
Yeah, it's like trying to hold your nose and run a 4-minute mile.
Yeah. Well, if you look out your window right now, you see that International sitting right in front of you.
Yeah.
So if you look at the side vents on the hood, that's where it breathes from.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So if you took that and made that a solid piece, how much open air do you actually have?
Yeah, not much.
So, in the day, and I've done this on my own trucks, I don't recommend it for everybody, but I went in and drilled holes in the bottom of my air canister and picked up huge numbers. But, it's hard to tell a guy that's just spent, $100,000 or $125,000 and say, hey, man, go in and drill holes in the bottom of it. You're going to pick up half mile per gallon.
Let's go drill some holes and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, but, I did stuff like that back in the day just to figure out.
That's how you learn.
Yep, that's exactly right.
David, you and I could do this all day long. And actually, after the show, I plan on hanging out with you the rest of the day if you'll have me.
Sure. Oh, absolutely, man.
All right.
Show you around. We got some cool stuff.
Yeah, we have 2 other guests scheduled today, so I've got to move along on the show here, and I will be talking to you right after I get off the air. Hey, real quick, though. If somebody wants to know more about Fleet Air Filter, what's the best thing they should do right now?
You can go to our website, Fleet-Air Filters, or you can give us a call at 251-654-0892.
Excellent.
Bryant is one of the lead guys here. You can talk to him. He's full of knowledge about what you need and what you don't need. But you can give us a buzz or shoot us an email, either one.
Absolutely. And I will say I love the idea they're hand built here in Alabama, and your customer service is top notch.
Yep.
Fantastic.
We try super hard.
Yeah, you do, and it shows. All right, David, we'll be talking soon. Thanks for joining me.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot.
All right, take care. All right, busy day going on today. We've got a lot going on. Our next guest will be coming up here shortly. I'm going to grab a call real quick while we're screening the guest and getting them in here. Let's go to Alabama. Mark, welcome.
Good morning. I've been there once before. I backed my car hauler in probably where you're sitting there when I went in to get some clean filters, and everybody there is awesome. So you can put a car hauler in there. So
yeah,
take a ride out front and back straight up in there.
Yeah, when you first look in the parking lot, it's a little. It's always crowded in here. Always, they're always slammed with vehicles, and they're always working on a lot of stuff. But there's always some room to get around.
So yesterday on the Spaces, I told you, hey, I posted that video of that woman broker. And so I posted another one. So I don't know, some guy come on there and blocked me this morning because he said end the discussion on all that. But I thought when I was listening to that, she was talking about, basically it sounded like you in a female voice saying what you always say. But I think she explained it pretty more to the point about where the money is, how it goes, and the fact that, it's your responsibility to. And, it's like none of these shippers out here, they're not worried about what our bottom line. They're worried about their bottom line. And
yeah,
they're worried about making a profit.
Hold on a second. And let's be real about this. Let's be honest. Are we really concerned about anybody else's business's bottom line? No. And we shouldn't be.
No, we're not. We're just
We shouldn't be. We have no
No.
control over their bottom line, just like they have no control over ours. We have control over our own bottom line. That's where we should be focused. And yet, the push in the industry is to focus on the broker margin. Like, why the hell does that matter? That's their business. Go ahead.
Well, that's true. That's true, but it also they don't understand how it all works. They have this myth that the brokerage it's what they do. Well, see, she made the point in there. You've made that before about how a broker is really your sales department. They
Yes.
go out and do the sales that you can't do. So if you want to, it costs to have sales because they have to go out and find the business. You don't have enough time to do that in a single truck operation out here. I mean, granted, you can find a customer here or there through long-term relationships and all like that, but over the long haul, you don't have a sales. You don't have a sales department unless you get to a certain, like TJ. Maybe he has a sales department, but you gotta. That's what they do, and until you build a relationship with carriers that have their own freight and extra freight, like I've done. You can't go out and make sales calls. And people will come to you and they say, I want you to haul my vehicles. I'm like, well, I got one truck and I really can't haul all of your vehicles. I can't be in all these places at one time.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
there's and they play the victim to everything like, oh, poor me. Oh, poor me. Well, Jesus Christ, not poor you.
Well, let me highlight what you just said. You said they don't understand how the system works. And I see you were kind of going back and forth with somebody on social media a little bit ago, and I jumped in because here's the statement they make. Brokers are the problem. Why in every other industry, if you want to do business with another company, you can pick up a phone, but not in the trucking industry. Brokers are problematic. Well, that is a completely ignorant statement. Nothing stops you from picking up the phone and calling a shipper and scheduling a sales call and going in there and trying to sell your services to them. What does he mean like in every other industry? That's exactly how it works here. If you want a customer, pick up the phone and call them. What's his problem?
So I have an example. So the other day, Friday, there's a carrier that I have a relationship with. I've only done a couple loads, but I've been very cordial with the person that I've dealt with. Well, I don't know if you remember, I called and said, hey, the guy, my main customer, retired. He walked out on Friday or whatever. So this guy, who's actually best friends with him, is going to that company. And I called him and I said, hey, I heard you were coming to work at company XYZ. Yeah. And I said, once you get settled in, I'm going to come out there and you can put a face to my name and visit with you. And he's like, I'd love that. There you go, right there. That's what I did. I was proactive in that. And so I'll take him a bunch of pies or a cake or something like that.
Exactly.
And, just to let them know, here I am. And,
so
that I really care about you. And go ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to address that video because I saw a couple comments about it. And I don't disagree, actually, with the comments. So what she said, the words that she said, had they been in text, they would have come across much better because she said all the right things. Everything she said was true. Unfortunately, delivery matters. And it's funny because I'm reading a book right now, and we've all heard these statistics before, but it doesn't always sink in. The number is something like less than 10% of our message is the words. The other 90%, you can say the same words so many different ways. And we're not even talking about changing the order of the words. We're talking about tone, inflection, pace. If it's face-to-face, then it gets even crazier because you've got gestures and eye movements and grins and frowns and facial expressions. All of that speaks way louder than the words themselves. And unfortunately, and maybe it doesn't come across this way for everybody, but I had to fight to listen to her words because her tone and delivery annoyed the hell out of me. It sounded like she was whining. It sounded like she was really condescending. And because of that, And like I say, I bring this up because I'm reading the book right now, and that video should be used as an example in this book. She had a great message. I agreed with almost everything she said. I've said all those things myself, but her delivery, in my opinion, was absolutely awful.
Yeah, well, I found that company that deals with Pittsburgh Power that has a big they're leased to Landstar, Blue Ribbon Logistics. They actually had her on a couple of YouTubes. That's how I found out who she was, because I come across that and I just listened, and it was and the reason I think the reason they brought her on there is because she seems to trigger all these people with
that might be a strategy. That might actually be a strategy. I know Larry, the owner of Blue Ribbon. Larry's a great guy. Larry was our official photographer at the CMC for years. Larry's been to a ton of CMCs because he came every year as our official photographer. He used to run a photography business before that whole industry got decimated. So Larry's a great guy. Maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's meant to annoy people.
Yeah, well, if she listens to these people day in and day out, play the victim. Then again, she's also a woman.
No, it matters.
Stereotypical, but
it matters.
Yeah, people in the trucking industry, it's a little tougher for women because it's traditionally been a man's sport, and they tend to look down. Well, you're a woman, you should be in the house cooking or having kids or whatever, and so I think that there's a lot of that in there that maybe leads to her mannerisms like that she's sick of hearing the victimization that these people portray all along, because as you said, and I found that I had to learn the hard way. It's like you have to build relationships. And I was listening to another podcast yesterday and it was in the car hauling business, and one of the people that runs a car hauling trucking company, a big one, he said the number one thing going forward in this economy is exactly, it sounded like he'd been listening to you, relationships. Build relationships. That will get you through the hard times.
Yep. Hey, one quick story about women in this industry, and then I've got to get our guest on. One of the best stories I heard about this. The founder of NAIT, the National Association of Independent Truckers. It's an association, but they're really a big insurance company with a couple features. Nothing wrong with that, but they don't have a ton of, association benefits, more about insurance. The woman who started it, and I met her and worked with them for a while, and the story she told me was she was so broke, and this was when she was younger. She was so broke, she was dating so she could eat. She would go out on a date so she could get dinner, and she was struggling to make it. She got a job as a receptionist at a truck insurance company. And after she had been there a while, she went to the owners and said, "Hey, look, I think I could really sell insurance. Why don't you give me a chance?" And she said they actually kind of laughed at her. And that we're going back now into the 80s here. And she said they kind of laughed at me and said, "No, you don't understand. Women can't sell insurance in this industry." And no matter how hard she tried, they would not let her go sell insurance. Well, she started her own agency. She ultimately sold that company for $80 million.
There you go.
Yeah. So it may be tough for them, and it is, but don't underestimate him because she built a hell of a business. She had a big office building in Kansas City that she owned the whole building. That was part of the sale. It was a very well-run company. So, Mark, I got to cut you loose. I got to get my my guest in here. It's been kind of a crazy morning already. I don't want to hold these guys up any longer. Guys and women, Tyler and Angie, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Great. Great
good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, Angie. Great to meet you, Tyler. It was good to see you again a couple weeks ago. We hadn't crossed paths in a while.
I know, man. I was thinking about when we first met. It was, I think, 1998.
Sounds right.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, sounds right.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I was on the recruiting drivers side at that particular time, and working with Pollard Publishing and and also American Graphics Group, and you were writing articles for us.
I was Brad Bentley.
Yeah.
Yeah. Haven't heard from Brad in a long time. Brad and I used to talk wrestling all the time because I was a high school wrestling coach, and he was an awesome high school wrestling referee.
Yeah, and he wrestled. I wrestled in high school as well, and we actually wrestled his team.
Really?
Or at least his school.
Yeah.
I never met him, but yeah.
Oh, I didn't
I
realize
got third
that.
in the regionals was about my biggest deal.
Yeah, I can't brag too much about my wrestling career. It was kind of mediocre. You know, I was pretty strong locally, but once we got into Northeast Ohio was a wrestling stronghold.
Oh yeah.
At least that's my excuse. I never made it all that far in the postseason. I can claim that I missed a trip to state by 2 points. I got beaten.
Oh my goodness.
Beaten the regionals by 2 points, but that was actually my second loss. They were always double elimination tournaments, so that's about as close as I got.
So with Angie, just to get, it was interesting listening to your discussion about the women in trucking. Angie's been in trucking in some form or fashion, either as a supporter of her husband or with truckstop.com for forever too.
Well, Angie, congratulations. It's a tough business.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm sure you have lots of stories.
Yeah, when we had our own trucking company, I would find the loads for my husband, so it was a challenge.
Oh yeah, you learn a lot doing that, though.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah.
We had our trucking business when the Olympics was in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I found him the best loads of ice coming from Phoenix to Salt Lake that paid really well.
There you go. That's right. You got to love that stuff. So,
Yeah.
it's Tyler, it's always fun catching up. You and I could probably talk for a couple hours. I don't think anybody wants to hear that. We'll do it over a beer sometime. But tell us what's going on now. You're with a brand new venture. I ran into you at the NASTC conference, and as soon as I saw what you were doing, I was interested in it.
Yeah.
You know, technology in trucking right now is kind of a wild place to be. I mean, you're aware of that. Truck stop and Convoy going out, and a lot of the digital brokers are really struggling right now. They never really solved the problem. They didn't crack the case, and then we hit some rough times. So they're dropping pretty quick. There was this huge rush of money into truck tech, and now it's kind of fading, but there's some good stuff that's going to come out of that. And I think this company's one of them. So why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, I thank you, and I appreciate that. I think the evolution of what has taken place in the industry, and that you and I, and most of us, really, because our industry is aged up there, but we've watched it happen from thinking about, are people going to be able to use a smartphone, or how do we get them off a flip phone, or are they going to be able to do any kind of technology upgrades on their computers? And the next thing you know, we are not only using smartphones for everybody, but the technology in the actual trucks themselves, much less being able to, hook into the laptops and for all of the things that they need to do for digital, anything that we log, all our logbooks, the permits. So what happened for us is that one of the last bastions of digitizing anything for the trucking industry is in the permit book side, because everybody we talk to literally has some sort of documents that they have to put in a permit book inside the cab. So the owner of my company basically said, there's got to be a better way. We can digitize this and make it easier for those that are in flip seat, moving from truck to truck, or basically having to carry around paper inside the house, or losing it, or leaving it. So we digitized this to a company, and we call it Credentials. And so what we've done basically is put this in the hands of the admin, so that updated documents and credentials for not just permits, but any kind of credential for the tractor, trailer, and even for the driver, their CDL or med card, can be stored on this. And it's on an easy-to-use app. So the app goes with them wherever. It's uploaded from the home office, And basically, they have it automatically when it's uploaded. And then if they get pulled over, if there's a wreck or a way station or what, for whatever reason, if it's need to be shown or even shared, it's done from the app, which either on a tablet or iPad or a phone. And it's real easy to move over to whomever's standing at the window asking for it, right?
Right.
Basically, what we've done is try to bring this next step and automating this for all sizes of trucking companies. It doesn't matter if it's one truck or 10,000 or 100,000 trucks. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. That should help our conversation.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to address, just technology in general, and everybody's getting a little leery about who has my information and what am I exposing myself to if I use this app. One of the things we have to remember. So I'm a big fan of this kind of stuff. I mean, I like technology. I realize we've got to be careful of some of it. But for example, kind of a correlating piece of software here would be Apple's Wallet. You can put your credit cards in there. Now I see they have, I think I saw 5 or 6 states the other day that allow you to put a digital copy of your license in there, and it's legitimate if you get pulled over. You can put your, travel itineraries and your tickets in there as e-tickets. It's really convenient. And honestly, I hate carrying a wallet. I've got my wallet down to my driver's license and 2 credit cards, one business, one personal. And that's all I carry. And if I could just have that on my phone, I would be much happier. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, hell no, I don't want any more information on my phone. Here's the problem with that thinking. The DMV has all of your information digitally. The DMV is a whole lot easier to hack, and people are going to think this is crazy. The DMV is way easier to hack than it is to hack my phone, especially with an Apple. The government can't even hack an iPhone. They have to go to Apple to force them to hack into the phone if they want to get somebody's information. That's how tight the security is on that phone. And the scammers over in Russia, North Korea, and China, and Iran, they don't want to do all that work to get one person's information. They can go to the DMV and get 1 million people's information in one shot. And that's usually where we have the big data breaches. It's not on anybody's laptop or iPad or their phone. Nobody's hacking into those things. It's too much work and there's no reward. So they go after the big databases. All of your bank account information is already online at your bank. All of your credit card information is there at the credit card company. Your license is at the DMV. Your insurance is somewhere. Everything is online. And you can't control all the places that they go hack. So I don't worry about putting this kind of stuff on my phone because it's safer there than anywhere. If they're going to hack me, they're going to do it through some big data breach at some company that holds my information.
Well, the bottom line for all of it is that we all have vulnerabilities no matter where we are and what we do and where we store it. The thing about the Apple system is that it is the most secure in the world. It's incredible, actually, like you said. And what the government has actually seen, and we went and lobbied, by the way, in 2019 for this, the principles of this company, and they got it approved for all 50 states and all Canadian provinces as well. So in that time, what part of the selling point is that it is a lot more secure. And being able to put that on a digital app, basically all it is carrying that paperwork in a digital form. The idea of somebody losing that and leaving it somewhere is really what pushed this. Well, we'll have this digital format in an app and more control from the home office. So there is no more, hopefully, lost paperwork or slowing down the process of getting the actual loads. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as soon as I saw it, like I said, I'm a big fan of anything that can simplify my life on the road, simplify my business, give me access to the things that sometimes when somebody asks for it, I don't know where it is. I got to go dig through stuff. So for me, this is one of those kind of technology pieces that's just a no-brainer to me.
That's right. And, here's the interesting thing, too. Angie, in particular, is head of the implementation team. So she actually works with the customers inside the office to help educate, train, upload, and show how that does. And, of course, Angie hadn't said anything yet, so we want to open this up for you just a little bit. Do you mind kind of talking about what you do?
That's what I was just going to ask her, too.
Thank you. I'm taking control.
Yeah. Go ahead, Angie.
So when we first sign up a customer, I help them get their, all their credentials uploaded, their equipment, their trucks, their drivers. And when we're uploading drivers, when it's a big trucking company and they run the clearinghouse reports at the end of the year, I always tell them the more information that you can provide, the better, just because that clearinghouse report comes directly from the FMCSA website. It's like the template. And so if they upload the driver's license number, the state they're licensed in, it just helps at the end of the year running those clearinghouse reports. As for the app, the mobile app, I think it is the most user-friendly app I have ever used. It's so simple. It's just you see the equipment that you're assigned to, that your manager's assigned you to. You click on it, and you can go right to the credentials and see all the registration, the trailer registrations, if there's any oversized, overweight permits, they're right there. And then also, if they have their driver's license and their medical card uploaded, they can see when it's going to expire right then as well. So they don't have to pull it out of their wallet or try and find their medical card paper to see when it expires. It's right there, and it will notify them 30, 60, or 90 days before it's going to expire. So it's pretty user-friendly. I was amazed when I saw it.
It really is, and that's why I kind of called this one a no-brainer. This is one of those issues when I'm on the road, I've got all these documents. I'm not going to be asked for them very often. When I do, I got to figure out where they are. I got to drag them out. If I can free up all that brain power, where I don't have to think about this and I don't have to scramble around to get stuff. Once I sit down, if we took a single truck owner-operator and he wanted to put in every piece of data that he had that this program allows, how long do you think it would take him?
It wouldn't take very long. I had a company a couple weeks ago upload an 86-page manual, and it was within 30 seconds that it was uploaded. So, it does not take very much time at all.
So you sit down, you spend maybe a half hour playing around with the app, and then you start uploading documents, and pretty soon you've got all your documents in one place. You know exactly where they are. You get reminded about things if you need to. I can't think of a single reason not to use this.
Exactly. Yeah. I just think that it's something that has needed to happen for a long time. Bringing this to the digital world. It's the last piece of the trucking information that you need. And I think, I'm always telling everybody that I talk to that I know owns a truck about it. So.
Yeah.
Another thing too, Angie and Kevin, real quick, is that when it does go into non-compliance, we have an auto renew, which will also help.
Oh, nice.
Stay in compliance. So if it looks like it's 30 days out or something, there's an alert on the app that also says, hey, listen, we can do this for you, or you can do it yourself. Just let us know.
Wow. That's a nice feature.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So let's just get down to business here. Tyler, most of our listeners here are either single truck owner operators or small carriers. And we've got some employee drivers that listen as well. So, the employee drivers, so you could certainly let your fleet know about this app, and they may be interested in it. The owner-operators of small carriers, if they wanted to use this app, what would it take? What should they do right now?
Well, the bottom line really is it's ecredentials.com, and there are sign-up features there. And what we also have are the phone number. You can call me at 256-225-2492. But truly going to the website, it will give you the phone number to either call us, either Angie or I, or somebody in the department will answer. But the main thing is you can sign up right there just from clicking online. And what will happen then is that we'd either reach out to you and we'll start the process of educating you or answering questions. But truly, it's that simple, and it's less than $50 a year.
A year?
For each piece of equipment.
Really?
Year.
Holy cow.
So it's very inexpensive.
Yeah, it sure is. So, Tyler, you're a brave man. You just put out your personal cell phone number. You might be busy today.
That'd be good.
Give that one more time then.
It is 256-225-2492.
Excellent. You know, here's another beauty of this product. I mean, normally if I have a company on and there's a new product I'm interested, we almost always schedule an hour. It's very seldom that I get through something like this in an hour. The thing about this, it's so powerful and yet so simple, but really explain it in about 10 minutes.
That's right. That's right. The whole thing that we decided is probably the most attractive thing about it is that it is so simple. It does several things, but it's really under one deal, and that is to try to streamline the ability for a driver to have all of the credentials that they need in their hand at a fingertip touch. And it also helps the admin side.
And share them easily.
It really is easily accessed.
Love it. Well,
and one other thing that I'd like to cover is you don't have to be in cell service. If those credentials are uploaded while they're in cell service, when they go out of range, they have access to all of those documents.
Very good point. I'm glad you made that clarification because that is an issue. You know, I've had some apps that I depend on and don't realize that if I lose cell coverage, the app doesn't work anymore. And that's always, that's kind of a rude awakening when you realize that happened. So it's nice to know that that's been taken care of on this.
Yep.
Well, fantastic.
Can I give another phone number just in case?
Absolutely.
And this might be the best number. It's 205-245-5749. That's 205, which is an Alabama number. It seems like you're getting a lot of play from Alabama today.
You're not kidding.
245-5749.
Excellent. All right. Anything else you want to let anybody know before we wrap this up today?
I'm good. I think we've probably said everything that needs to be said. Angie, have we gotten anything?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's pretty simple to get signed up and start using it today.
Fantastic. Tyler, where am I going to run across you next?
I don't know, man. Are you in Alabama this week?
I am in Alabama today. No, today and tomorrow. I'm actually going to, when I leave here, I'm heading up to Brent's house.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Brent invited me to just hang out.
We're going to try to get to a couple of conferences. We know that we'll be at Matt's for sure. And maybe some of the others that are satellite, but truly that's where we'll be making a big presence there at Mid-America.
That'll be a big deal for you. We need to talk about that. We're starting to put together some thoughts on a big event that we'll do with Truck Stop there. So we should talk about some other things we might be able to do at that show. So I'll see you there. I know Brent mentioned a TIA conference coming up at some point that he's already got me speaking, but I didn't pay attention to when.
Oh, nice.
Somewhere in Phoenix, Scottsdale, somewhere. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, so I'll be there. Well, we will catch up again. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day and coming and educating us on a cool new piece of software.
Well, thank you so much for having us both.
All right. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kevin. It was nice meeting you.
You're welcome. Great to meet you. All right. It is a free-for-all. Phone lines are open. 855-950-3835. I will stay here today as long as you have calls and questions. So line them up. If you have a question, a comment, a topic, anything at all you want to talk about, pick up the phone and join me. 855-950-3835. Let's go to Texas. Melody, welcome.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Doing wonderful. What's on your mind today?
Oh, I want to start out by telling you a really funny story. I'm in my first year of owning my very own truck.
Well,
I'm really excited.
Congratulations. That is exciting.
Yeah. I bought it back in April, and I financed it. And I was really not happy about the 16% interest rate. So I worked really hard, and I even sold some things to pay it off. And I paid it off in October.
Double congratulations. That is awesome.
Yeah. But I want to tell you my funny story, and then I'd like to see if I can get a hold of Joel for a fuel mileage consultation.
Sure.
And this is what I learned when I had to borrow a truck and just to run down and pick up a load while my truck was in the shop. So I got in the truck and, pre-tripped and everything, and I was going out the driveway, and I got to the traffic light, and I stopped at it. And I was driving the truck, the way I would drive my truck, and I almost stalled it at the traffic light, and I was laughing because I'm like, wow, this thing is geared to where it will get much better miles per gallon than my truck would get. My truck apparently is geared pretty high. So I'm learning some things. I bought that truck because I wanted something very mechanically reliable.
Okay.
Because I am still learning about how to work on my truck, and
good for you.
We've been just working on it. I'm going to change the oil myself. I'm getting good deals on, oil and filters and things like that. And I'm just, learning something all the time. But in my budget, the fuel mileage, the fuel cost, is very high, and you're probably gonna fall over and die. But I'm gonna fix this issue. My truck averages 6.6 to 7.0 miles per gallon.
Okay, that's not awful. I mean, really, and here's why I say it's not awful. The fuel surcharge is based on 6 miles to the gallon. As long as you can beat 6, fuel should never be the reason you go out of business. I don't care if fuel goes to $10 a gallon. Actually, if fuel went to $10 a gallon, your profit would go up because you're above that.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, because
you have to add in the surcharge.
Yeah, and because you're above the 6 that they base the surcharge on, the higher fuel goes, the more your profit actually goes up. People have a hard time understanding that. Now, it doesn't mean we want to sit here and settle for that. Of course not. But it's not awful. It's a good start. Do you have your truck specs? We could start talking about some things right now.
I don't. And you know what? I have been looking for those. I measured the wheelbase, and it's 245 inches. It's long. The reason why we bought it is because it had a very good mechanic history, being a truck that pulled tankers for a cryogenics company.
Okay,
it took very good care of it, and I got it for really low miles.
What year and what model?
It is a 2019 Freightliner Cascadia with a DD13 engine.
I like this. I'm a fan of
You would like that truck.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the DD13.
And so,
but
it's a mid-roof though, and I pulled dry van.
Ooh, there's
that's my problem.
That's one of your biggest fuel mileage challenges. You lose a half mile per gallon on that alone. Now, so the way we would approach fuel mileage, you had mentioned gear ratios. Do you happen to know what they are?
I was told you can look at it on the inside of the door panel.
Right.
I just know that it's probably geared a little bit too high, because if I go 65 miles per hour, it's in the 1300 RPM range.
Okay, so just to clarify something, this gets really confusing, and a lot of people make this mistake. What you're really trying to say is your gear ratio is too low. The number itself is higher, so this is why it gets confusing. A higher number. So if we go back to really old school stuff, we used to deal with gear ratios
transmissions. The lower the gear, if you're at a slow speed and in a high gear, then your engine's gonna,
so
that's just kind of the way you think of it.
Yeah, but that's why people get confused. So when we're talking about a differential gear, the higher the number, so going back to old school stuff, we used to deal with gear ratios like 4.11, 4.13. There were some up in the 4.5s. Those were pretty unusual. Yeah, that is a really, really low gear. Now, on the other hand, Joel and Henry are down in the low 2s now. Gear ratios in the 2.18 range and lower. And there are even some gears.
I need to talk to them too, because I'm like,
so
I'm looking to buy another truck too.
That's a higher gear. So just to help clarify that, because it gets confusing, the bigger the number of your gear set, the lower the ratio. The smaller the number, the higher the ratio. So whatever yours is,
so it's probably like a 2 or 3.25 or something.
Might be a 308. Is fairly common on that. That might be the Freightliner guy you really want to talk to is Henry. And look, Joel can spec these kind of things. He understands all the platforms. He really focuses on Volvo. Henry's the guy that's been working with Freightliner for years and years on this stuff. There's a couple options. You could call us on Friday of this. Oh, no, this is the holiday week. Next Friday.
Yeah, they were saying Friday, like next Friday.
Yeah.
Because what I was wanting to do, and I'll be in line to do it in the next 6 months, I want to buy another truck, but I'm not going to, I'm going to let Joel or Henry kind of guide us. We want to fly out to wherever they are and have them pick the truck for us that gets the absolute best fuel mileage.
So we can still talk about some things here. We can come back to fuel mileage in a little bit because I can help you with a lot of that. Why the second truck?
Mm-hmm. Well, because I did some numbers and I put Joel's truck side by side with my truck and looked at the fuel mileage, and it is with my truck. I will be if I got a truck like Joel's, I would save $68,233 in a year. That's fuel. That's a big chunk of money.
What's huge, and I talk about those kind of numbers all the time. But I want to. Yeah, but there's some other things we need to look at right now. I know those numbers are really tempting, but let me tell you this: do not try to calculate anything on your operation from Joel's numbers. You're not going to achieve what Joel's achieving, even if he builds the truck for you. There's a lot of other factors there. Some of it is a big part of it is driving. Joel's got stuff on his truck that is still almost experimental. He's always testing things. Now, we could reasonably assume, here's the biggest number I want anybody to use if they're going to spec a new truck, and they're doing it for the fuel mileage savings. I would not make those calculations on anything over 9.5. That's a safe place. 10 is tough to achieve on a true, lifetime average of a truck. And the kind of numbers that Joel and Henry are knocking down, 11 plus sometimes, those are virtually unheard of. I mean, they are doing so many things right, and they do it to prove a concept. And eventually, as we do that, we get all the trucks better and better. But to be safe, don't do this calculation on anything more than 9.5 on the new truck. Now, before you even think about another truck, there's another calculation here. That's there's no reason why we can't get your truck, I don't think, to 9.5. And we don't
I don't know. I mean, I have tried and tried and tried.
Well, tell me what you've tried. Tell me what you've tried.
I have, since the wheelbase is really long, I have moved my fifth wheel forward, just like enough, just enough to maybe help close the gap, but not so much that I'm hooking my mud flap on the landing gear. And then
245 is not that big of a wheelbase.
Yeah, I mean, I was just, I'm just looking at the numbers and looking at the savings.
Well, I know. Hold on. Don't be blinded by incorrect numbers, and that's part of what you're doing right now. So I want to take a step back. So what else have you tried? We've slid the fifth wheel up, closed the gap. That's good. What else? When
I am not pressed for time, I drive about 60, 62, and I don't even look at my speedometer. I look at the gauge that tells me the real time of what miles per gallon I'm getting.
Okay,
and
good.
when I do that, I can get to 9.
What, so
Yeah,
why
I can
are
get to 9
hold
or
on?
like 9.5.
Why are we thinking about a new truck then?
I don't know, because I was seeing Joel's truck, and I was like doing,
Well, stop
doing
it.
the numbers side by side.
Stop it.
Okay.
Joel's been doing this for 35 years. There is a
Okay.
huge amount of risk in changing trucks. Every once in a while, we spec a truck just about perfect, and it comes out and gets at least a mile per gallon less than what we predicted. It happens. And a lot of times we're not even sure why.
Yeah.
There is that risk. Here's the other problem.
Yeah.
Every time you trade trucks, you lose money. You have to trade in at wholesale and you have to buy at retail. So there's a loss there. Now, do you have enough cash to buy the truck you would want?
Yes, and I would not buy the truck at all yet until I can come up with the cash for just to buy it cash. But what I was thinking, and this is the other thing I wanted to ask you.
Hold on. Let me go back to a statement you just said. So, and this is a good thing. It's not a criticism at all. But we got to look at these things. If you are throwing off enough profit that you would be able to reasonably save enough cash to buy a new truck in the near future, why mess with that? Why take a risk right now in a really bad market? We don't know where this market's going. It could get worse. It could hang out here at the bottom for a year or more. This is not a time to go get another truck. And you don't need to.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to definitely follow your advice. I mean, I'll wait. I mean, I just wanted to call you and see if, we should do this, or it's a good idea to do this.
Yeah, I would put off the idea of a new truck right now. You've got a 2019. You've told me if it's driven right, you can get 9 miles to the gallon. And we haven't made any of the modifications we could still make to improve it. Do you have a fleet air filter?
No, you're right. I can. You have one for sale. In your truck store.
Yeah, I'm sitting at Fleet Air Filters right now.
Air filter. Now, is that what size would fit my truck? Because that would actually be really great.
Yeah, you can do two things. You can call them up. Just pick up the phone. They've got great customer service. Tell them what make, model, and engine. They'll give you the filter, or pull your filter out and get the part number off of it, and then anybody can look it up and tell you what filter you need. So there's one. Okay. I'm
going to write it down.
A FAS or an AirDog system would be a nice improvement.
Okay, what's the next one you said?
Either a FAS fuel system or an AirDog fuel system. They both do similar things in slightly different ways. They take air out of the fuel. These new engines return a lot of fuel back to the tank, and that creates a lot of air in the fuel, and air is bad for our engine. It's hard on our injectors. It affects our fuel economy and our performance. So both of those systems take the air out of the fuel. They both work extremely well. There's another modification. Between a Fleet air filter and a FAS, there's the potential to pick up another 0.5 mile per gallon.
Okay, that's awesome. I would love that. There's
some aerodynamics improvements. We have an awesome aerodynamic device in our store called the Flow Below, and if your truck would have, and maybe it is, I don't know, but you don't have any aerodynamic devices around your tandems and between the tandems, right?
Well, no, my trailer's got
not the trailer, not the trailer, the tractor. So
no, it really doesn't. I mean, not at all.
Freightliner, this is one of the few aftermarket fuel devices that the OEMs actually install. If you would have gotten the efficiency version of your truck, it may have come with the Flow Below from the factory. But you can add that now. We've got them in our store. We could, just with a couple things, we could be picking up 6 or 7 tenths of a mile per gallon. And we don't have to spend a lot of money to do it.
Yeah, I'm making a list.
Good. And make sure you check it twice.
I will. Anything else that you think that I should get or that would help or do to it?
The fact that you're running around at 1,300 RPM or more, I get a little concerned about the emission system. That engine would do better at a lower RPM. It holds more heat in the engine that way. It's easier on the emission system. So when I see an engine being run out of its ideal RPM range, the Pittsburgh Power Max Mileage Catalyst. Now
I use that.
Okay,
I use
good.
that on every fueling.
Okay, good.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, good. Okay, I would stick with those for right now. Let's take a look at those three. Put them on. Track your gain, and I would just forget the idea of a new truck right now. A lot of hassle, a lot of money, a lot of risk, and we're not gonna gain that much.
You're right. So what about getting the RPMs lowered? Can I do that?
Yeah, just slow down.
Slow
That's
down.
it right now. Here's the thing. If we go to change gear ratios on this thing right now, it's almost it's going to be $6,000. I mean, if you could do it yourself, and you can get the parts used, you can do it cheaper, but it's not easy. I mean, you've got to go find the parts. You got to have a shop to do it in. Otherwise, you're going to pay somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000 probably to change out two differential sets, and it would be an improvement. Well, we think based on your RPM, it would be an improvement, but to me, that's too much money to put out right now, not enough return back.
Okay, gotcha on that.
But, after you get this done and it sounds like you're doing pretty well and you've got enough profit, it's not out of the question that we might do it. But what I'd like to do is see where this thing settles in when you make these three modifications. You really start focusing on driving. I mean, at today's rates, there's not a whole lot of reason to be in a hurry anywhere. It's not like we're rushing to a screaming hot load that's paying us a bunch of money. So let's see where we can get with some driving modifications, these three modifications. And if it looks like there would still be a nice enough gain with, changing out some gear sets, you can do it whenever.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, most of the time when I'm going down the road, I'm just kind of blowing on the throttle. Just,
Good.
Very, very light on it.
Good. Yeah, you're doing a lot of things right across the board. How you bought the truck, how you paid off the truck, the fact that you're learning how to work on it yourself, that you're looking at fuel mileage modifications. That's awesome. My advice would be focus on this truck because I think you've got a winner here.
I think so, too, because the engine, oh, my goodness, I oil sample it, just before I change the oil, and the only thing it shows is just a little bit of tin. Otherwise, that engine is so clean.
Excellent.
Oh, and the viscosity level is kind of high. I use the 15 W40
Stop it.
Rotella.
Stop it.
What?
Because there's another fuel mileage gain we can get. That engine is not designed for 1540. It's designed for 1030.
1030. I will write that down.
And I would run 1030 full synthetic.
All right. Full synthetic.
We might squeeze a full mile per gallon out of all these modifications and a little bit of driving adjustment.
Yeah. All right, because I ask people about what is the best weight oil to use, and I get half people tell me 10W or 1540, and half tell me the other thing.
Let me help you with that too. Okay, so I'm going to ask you for advice about oil, okay? And you give me any answer you want. Don't overthink it. I'm just going to ask you about oil, and then you're going to give me an answer, okay? And don't worry about what the answer is. And then I'm gonna show you how to really learn things. So
yeah.
All right. So Melody, what kind of oil should I run in my DD13?
Well, I was always told that Rotella was the best.
Can you tell me?
Synthetic blend.
Can you tell me why I should run Rotella?
Mm-hmm. It seems not to break down quite as fast as some of the other oils that my mechanic uses. The Emerald.
Hold on. Why? Why does it not break down so fast?
Because I think it's just better quality.
And what are we comparing it to? How do we know it broke down?
I look at the color and
Yeah,
I think
can't
it's
don't
like
don't
dark.
do that. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that.
Okay.
See, what I'm trying to help you with here is when you ask for advice from people, don't just take their answer on the surface. Because and this is not a criticism of you, I did this on purpose. What I just learned is you really don't understand oil, but you were giving me advice.
No.
And that's I will guarantee you almost 100% of the people you asked for advice about oil don't understand oil. And if you would have questioned them, asked them why, you probably would have figured that out. Lots of people give advice. All they're doing is repeating what they've heard somewhere else. And if that's the case, I don't want your advice. If you can't explain to me why I should do something or not do something, then your advice is kind of worthless to me. Now, if you ask me those questions, I'll tell you exactly why you should be running a full synthetic 1030 in your truck. And I don't care if it's Rotella or not. I'm actually a fan of Rotella. I like it for a lot of reasons. But that doesn't mean I can't do just as well with almost any other brand of oil on the market that has the right API. I have tried and tried and tried to figure out any real difference between oil, and the differences are almost non-existent. The one thing I can say about Rotella that I do like, it has more zinc than most oil does, and zinc is really protective. The other thing is it's priced well and it's easy to get. So those things are enough for me to just stick with Rotella. But you want the 1030 and you want a synthetic.
In bulk, I get a better deal on it.
Oh, buying in bulk is always a great idea, no doubt.
Yeah. But I had a question about the oil weight. Would you change the weight of the oil when, like, 'cause we're going with the lighter weight, the 10W30? Is that good for like winter or summer? Like, does the temperature have anything to do with it?
Almost nothing these days. Almost every oil on the market. Now, I will say the big difference in temperature is between conventional oil and synthetic. But once we moved to synthetic, there's not a huge difference in temperature between a 1540 and a 1030. The 1030 is going to start better in really cold temperatures than a 1540. It still has plenty of protection on the hot side. We don't get engines hot enough to ever hurt any kind of oil. The reason we use the 1030 is these engines were built for 1030. They have much tighter tolerances, and the lighter weight the oil is, the better fuel economy we get.
Oh, that's right, because it doesn't have to work so hard.
See, you get this.
It's a lot of sense,
You're right.
actually. Yeah,
You're right.
I
get this.
I get the mechanics of it.
Yeah, perfect.
So that is what we're going to do. We are going to, I haven't ordered my oil or anything yet. Thank goodness. I'm not going to order that till next month. And yeah, that's what I'm going to order.
One more thing, and then I'm going to cut you loose. How often are you changing your oil? What's your interval?
I change it about every 35,000 miles.
Stop it.
Because it's just, no, why? What am I doing?
And I'm picking on you, I know, but it makes a point. Have you looked in your manual?
I look in my manual, but you know what? When I look in the manual, it's like it almost looks like it's not the right manual for the truck.
Okay,
like,
so
I'm not,
almost
it's not matching the truck or anything.
All of the new modern engines today are their oil change intervals recommended from the factory with no extra filtration or anything is going to be between 50 and 75,000 miles. There's not an engine on the market anymore that you're supposed to change at 30. So,
oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah, 50 to
and 75,000 miles for synthetic.
If I think no, you don't even have to use synthetic to get that. We want to use synthetic, but I just want to be clear, you could do this with any oil. The synthetic really doesn't help us extend drains. It's just better for the engine, it's better for fuel economy, it's better for a lot of reasons, but 30,000 miles, I don't think there's a modern engine on the market that requires that anymore. Now, one more modification you could make is put the OPS filtration system on there, and now you might very likely go 150 to 200,000 miles without changing. Does that make you nervous?
I was hearing about that. That's filtration. Okay. Now, can most mechanics install it, or is it pretty easy to install yourself?
It is easy to install, and if I ever ran into a mechanic that said he couldn't install it, he would never get anywhere near my truck. All we have to do is mount it on the outside of the frame usually. That's pretty straightforward. We run one 12-volt electric line to it. We run an oil feed and an oil return. We're done. This is basic mechanics.
Oh, my goodness. So your regular filters, like your regular oil filter, can just stay where it's at?
Yep.
And then it
Don't
will
touch
kind of feed over to the OPS. Won't touch it.
Yep. And you can also get the OPS in our store.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to do that, and I was going to check out all these other things, and I might, probably get those next month, and then January too.
Perfect.
Start working on it.
One other thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of buying anything in January, buy it in December, and we accelerate our tax break to this year.
Oh, my goodness. That is an amazing point. So I will buy it in December for sure.
Give yourself a Christmas present or two.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Melody,
Yeah, thank you so much for
You're
all
welcome. I want you to go think about all this and then call me back next week.
that. Okay, will do. Thank you.
You're welcome. We will talk to you soon. Let's go to North Carolina. Steve, welcome.
Hello?
Yes. What's on your mind today?
Hey, Kevin. Long story short, got a good friend that about 2 years ago, he had a stroke. And he's a younger guy. He's in his mid-40s now. So had a stroke, was in the hospital 3 or 4 days. They laid him out. Within not really, within a week or so, he was back to himself again, wasn't dragging his leg, none of that kind of stuff. It pretty much went away and didn't seem to really have any problems. Like I say, it's a couple of years ago. And then a couple of months ago, all of a sudden, bang, he's back in the hospital again. They're saying, oh, he had another stroke. I'm like, wow, this is strange. He quit smoking and everything. I thought he was doing good. And his eating habits wasn't the average American diet. And in the last 6-8 months, he's kind of switched over to, now he's cut off a lot of carbs and a lot of sugars, but it's still not enough to make a big difference.
Okay.
He hasn't gone completely carnivore or keto or nothing like that. But so they thought he had another stroke a month and a half, 2 months ago. He was in the hospital like a day or two, and bang, he's back out. And it's like, man, he kind of looks normal already. That's kind of quick and stuff. And then I started hearing that, well, they said it wasn't a stroke. They can't figure out what it was. Okay, that's kind of strange. And I've noticed in the last month or so, or last couple of 3 or 4 weeks, maybe a month, that it seems like he's kind of dragging his leg a little bit here and there. And he's just one side of his arm acts a little funny sometimes and stuff. He does drink too much. He drinks, a lot to me. It's almost daily, basically. Okay. And I've come to the fact that through the grapevine, basically I got some info from his brother because we know it wasn't a stroke. It was misdiagnosed. I'm 90% sure it's ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, whatever you want to call it. But
are the doctors saying that at all?
He knows, but he doesn't want everybody else to know yet. And I've read through everything I've seen and my research, everything I've done. I'm going, it sounds like ALS.
The reason I question it, I'm very familiar with ALS. My father died from it. It is not an easy thing to diagnose. There's no clear indicator. There's no single test they can do. If I remember right, I think from the onset of his first symptom till they actually diagnosed him was somewhere between 2 and 3 years. It's not I'm not saying that's not what it is, but it doesn't sound like it to me, honestly. Usually it doesn't start with the leg dragging. That is more of a stroke kind of thing. ALS tends to kind of start at the top and start to you lose muscle control is what you lose. They start to.
Well, he's lost some muscle control now.
Where though?
Basically, his arms, hands, legs.
Yeah, see, that's not quite typical of ALS. It can happen. Usually it starts in your head and your face and works its way down. That's a more common pattern. It could be ALS. Here's the other question I have to ask. What was the date roughly of his first stroke?
A little over 2 years ago.
Is he vaccinated?
I don't believe he ever did. I didn't either, and I don't think they ever did either.
I can't guess on that one. That's something I would have to know right up front before you even start to diagnose this. Because if he's had the vax, I would go a totally different route. These kind of events...
I'm gonna say he didn't.
Yeah, but you're not listening to me. I would not even attempt to help somebody until I was positive. Not I think, not maybe, not you've got to be positive. Because if he's had it, we go down one path. If he hasn't, we go down a different path. So we can't guess. We'll waste a whole bunch of time going down the wrong way if we're just guessing. So I would ask him right up front. If he wants help, he's got to be honest about that. And there are very different protocols if this is a vaccine injury. And it sounds like one. It's. I know he smokes and he drinks, and it's not out of the question for a 40-year-old to get stroke. But strokes are a lot more common in people that have been vaccinated. And we have to...
Like I said,
Go ahead.
They misdiagnosed it as a stroke, and then they come around the second time, and they knew it wasn't a stroke, but that's why I kept going.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. When they say it's not a stroke, what do they think it is?
I don't know. They didn't know what it was.
Well, then I'm not.
They did not know.
I'm not completely confident that it isn't a stroke. It sounds more like stroke symptoms. Here would be my recommendation. We don't need to know this. If he's serious about fixing this and getting healthy, the next phone call would be to Dr. Wolfson. He'll tell you whether it was a stroke or not, and whether it was a stroke or it is a vaccine injury. He's got protocols for both.
Okay, I'll try to work with you some more, try to see if I can get him anywhere on that. It's just some of them are so hard-headed, they just don't. They don't want to listen because they don't want to change. It's like, well, this meant living a lot longer than 10 more years or 5 more years. Maybe you would listen.
And look, here's the thing: if at this point, after having 2 strokes, being this disabled over it, if he's not willing to give up the drinking, is he still smoking?
No, the smoking. He stopped shortly after the first diagnosis of possible stroke.
So I'll tell you this, if you can quit smoking, quitting drinking is a slam dunk. It's a whole lot easier.
Yeah, you would think. Absolutely.
Oh, no, it is. It's a whole lot easier than quitting smoking. All the research shows that...
you could ever give up is smoking.
That's what I mean. Ask anybody.
It's been proven.
That's what I mean. So if he's not willing to give up the drinking, then it
probably can't get better.
It's going to be tough. Alcohol is hard on the body, and drinking alcohol every day is really hard on the body.
Daily, yeah. I just lost a friend because he was drinking hard liquor every day, 3, 4, 5 hours a day, and he'd pass out at the bar and go home. The guy died at like 36, 37, liver shut down and everything. Like, you're going to die. You cannot abuse your body like that daily and think you're okay to do that.
No, you can't.
Too much of anything is a bad thing, and you're hard liquor daily that much, you're going to die. You're going to kill yourself. Hey, quick note. I emailed them or a message on Facebook and somebody responded in your group. There, someone who works for you. Did you get the message they passed it on about your Green Acres? I call it Green Acres because I don't know if you remember the show, but
yeah, I
your
do.
Farm.
Yeah, I do.
Green Acres.
Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Yeah, it's funny. Good shows we used to watch a million years ago that we would watch today. But the chickens getting out and eating the grapes and stuff you were talking about, and they love them, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if they passed on the message to you that I mentioned, please don't let diesel get near those grapes. One grape can kill your dog.
Look,
grapes are extremely harmful for dogs.
I'm not going to argue this because I don't know. I've never looked it up. But I have seen so many things over the years, and I'm not saying they're good for dogs, and Diesel doesn't eat that kind of stuff, so it's not an issue. He's been around the grapes a ton. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. I kind of find it really, really hard to believe that any animal can die from that small of an amount. I'm not saying it's not true, but I've heard I've heard dark chocolate. Oh my God, one time and they'll die. Don't let them near your poinsettia plants. If they smell them, they'll die. I mean, look, I'm not saying it's good for them, but I kind of doubt there's ever a case of a dog eating one grape and dying.
Right. That's just after I heard that, I did the research, and they do say that one grape could shut their liver down and have serious
Who
problems. Get them
says?
to a vet immediately. Blah,
Who
blah,
says?
blah. It's just it depends on where the research comes from.
That's
Kevin, but
that's
I found
my
it
point.
online.
It's
Doesn't
the
mean
internet,
that it's any good.
right?
I know. Doesn't
Right.
mean that it's any good.
I
Depends
have
on
to
where
I have to
research came from.
believe that lots and lots of people have fed grapes to dogs. I'll bet it's fairly common. People feed their dogs all kinds of stuff that they eat. And if one grape started killing dogs, I think we would all know this.
Yeah, probably. You're probably correct.
Yeah,
I
now,
got you then.
yeah, but I appreciate the advice. I do, and I don't worry about it. 'Cause Diesel's just one of those dogs. He doesn't eat anything other than the food we feed him. I mean, he doesn't beg at the table. He eats his breakfast and he eats his dinner, and that's it. It's the way it's always been, and he doesn't eat much other than that. Let's go to Ohio. Herschel, welcome to the program.
Hey, Kevin,
What's on your mind today?
you got me?
I do.
Well, for that lady that was talking all about her truck, Pittsburgh Power just put out an email today. They got a good Black Friday sale, and OPS is part of it.
Hey, are you cannibalizing my sales?
No, sir. I'm just telling you.
I know. And if they have a better price, you should go buy it from them right now.
Well, I don't have any idea whose price is better. I just got the email today. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. No, we're fine sharing the love.
And when you put your OPS on a Series 60, don't do what I did and watch which one of them plugs you're going after with your extension that's about 2.5 feet long. So
Oh,
you can
boy.
reach it. 'Cause I pulled the wrong one and I got all my antifreeze on the driveway.
Uh-oh, that's no fun.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
So anyway.
just so you don't feel quite so bad, I had a little incident this morning setting up for the show. I don't know what it is with me and the Starlink. I love this thing. It's the best internet I've ever had. But I have abused this poor thing so bad I can't even believe it still works. The first thing I did, and this was on the last trip, I used to have to put it out the window from inside the coach, then go out there on a ladder and climb up and put it on top. And I set it there in the window, and by the time I walked around, it fell out of the window all the way down to the ground. And I thought, well, that thing's never going to work again. I picked it up, and it worked. Week or two ago, I said the wind blew my cable, and it landed on the exhaust for my diesel-fired heater. And when the diesel-fired heater came on, it melted the cord in half. There were two ends. And there are a lot of little tiny wires in there. And the only place to get this cable is Starlink. And I have an order in for 2 new cables, except they can't catch up with me. I had them delivered to Nashville the first time, but I left Nashville before they got there. Then I had them rerouted to Destin. They were supposed to show up Saturday, but they didn't, and I just left Destin without them. So I still don't have new cables. I had to splice that one back together. It was not fun. It's still working. But today, I pull into David's place here, Fleet Air Filter. I back up. I'm hooking up. I'm doing all my stuff. Normally, I put out my slides first, and then I climb up, and the last thing I do is put up the Starlink. But today, I figured I'm in a hurry, and the Starlink takes a little while to boot up. So I thought, I'll put the Starlink up first, then I'll go finish all the other stuff. So the first thing I did is I put the Starlink satellite all the way on the top of the coach. Now we're talking 13 feet up. And I'm putting out my slides, and all of a sudden I hear something crash. My slide caught the cable and pulled the thing right off the top of the coach. It fell 13 feet onto gravel. Is it gravel? No, it's concrete. I thought, oh, the hell, that thing's never going to work again. And guess what? It's still working. That damn thing is just about indestructible.
You need to send another message to Elon. You could be on some kind of a Mythbusters advertisement or durability test or something for that thing.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep doing this. I mean, it's always stupid stuff, and I seem to keep doing it. Actually, if I can hang out here long enough, I'm not sure if I can or not, I might have David's shop put a permanent mount for me up top.
That's the old saying Grandma used to say, you get in the cart before the horse. Slow down and think about what you're doing.
Oh, it's always when I'm in a hurry. Always.
My question for you, now I'm not confused about the pricing, the 12, the 52, the 72. I get all that. The part that I don't totally get, of course, the name is group coaching. So to me, that is multiple people.
Right.
Couple of questions around the group coaching, whether it's business or health. Is that on a Zoom call, face-to-face, on a laptop, the only way to do it, or is it doable on a phone?
So it is.
The other part.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead. The other part is, I know you said it's not going to work like the show, in air quotes, but to a degree it kind of maybe does. Do you push a button to put your hand up to ask something? How does it work?
Okay.
How are you going to do it?
So first off, and we've already done one. We've worked through all the technology on this. It is a Zoom meeting. Zoom is a nice, powerful platform, works really well. Lots of people are familiar with Zoom now, so it's a good way to do this. Zoom is awesome on a phone. So yeah, you can get the Zoom app on your phone, and you don't need a laptop or an iPad or anything else. You can do it right from the phone. I don't care if the participants are on video or not. That's totally up to you. I like the face-to-face stuff, especially when we're working more intensely. But if lots of people on the last call didn't turn their video on, that's fine. So if you just want to listen, you can do that. So it is really, really easy to access from your phone. As far as how it goes, there's lots of ways it could go. You might, if you were in the program right now and you decided to call me today and we had a coaching call later this week, you could say, hey, I really want to work on this problem I have with this ECM report, or whatever it might be, or I'm thinking about adding a truck and I don't even know where to start. Well, then I might say, okay, we're going to make you the first case on the call this week. Or we get to the call and the first person that raises their hand, I'll help them. At some point, we will have to cut off new people. I mean, there is going to be a finite number of people I can manage at one time. We don't know what that is yet. So we're going to grow slowly, and we're going to watch that. And if it gets to the point where we think people aren't going to be served well, we'll shut it off. We want to make sure the people that are in the program get all the help they need to solve their problems.
Okay. Then let me ask you this. The reason that I asked about the coaching for me is the health side, right, more than anything. I do have a program that I got one more installment left on that program and a couple of calls yet, and then that'll be over. And to say that's spendy, that's an understatement.
It is.
Now, there have been benefits, yes, a lot of them, yes, definitely. But I wonder, because of what I have done with Dr. Jack, would you be comfortable doing this kind of stuff to maybe progress farther to get, because I just want to feel good. That's it. And I don't.
Okay.
I'm not there yet. I'm a whole sight better than I was, a whole lot better, but I'm not quite there.
Yeah,
so I
good.
wanted to see what you thought.
Yeah, so, what the difference here is time. If you want time from Dr. Wolfson, it's expensive. It has to be. If you wanted true one-on-one time with me outside of this group program, first off, I won't do it. I can't. I don't have enough time, and I would have to charge the kind of rates he charges. It's just that labor-intensive to do a lot of this stuff. This program is a way to get really close to that level of care without spending a ton of money, but by taking more time to do it. You're in the group. You're going to be learning something from every call, probably. That's why we do it as a group. But as long as you stay in the program, I'll keep doing something until I don't know what to do anymore. And part of that will be I have the ability to consult with people like Dr. Wolfson. I mean, I can go to him with a tough case and say, hey, I'm stuck on this. Can you help me with this? And I have several doctors that will do that for me. So this is a way to get a pretty intense level of help at a very, very reasonable price. Hell, you could stay in my program for about 5 years for what you pay for a consultation, right?
Well, Well, the initial call with the doc isn't really too bad.
Right.
Once you get into a program and you start doing blood work, that's when you better get your chain drive big boy wallet.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You're not kidding. So, and there are still people I'm going to have to refer out for that kind of stuff, and there's no way around it. Sure. We'll do a lot of that work. I will consult with other people. The goal here was to create the next level of care without breaking the bank.
Right. Okay. All right, Kevin. Well, I'll call Tribe Care and get that set up. I do have a meeting this afternoon, actually, with a psychologist. I think a lot of it's between my damn ears. So.
It is, but we also know that those problems between the ears many, many times comes back to something not necessarily in the brain the way psychologists and psychiatrists think. It could come back to, and you've done a lot of this work. I don't know if they found any kind of mold issues that could be causing this, but there are dietary things, there are metabolic things that show up in the brain. Really, we're starting to find that brain issues are really just inflammation of the brain. Just like, liver issues are inflammation and joint issues are inflammation. Almost everything in the body comes back to inflammation.
Well, I know I am allergic to mold. That's one of the reasons they have me on allergy injections as a child twice a week.
That may be Dave Asprey. That was a big problem for him. It's why he developed his coffee. And I have... Go ahead.
I actually have the cardiology coffee from Dr. Jack.
Good.
And it's pretty tasty stuff.
Oh, it is.
But you got to buy a grinder. I didn't know this. The package comes, I open it up, it's beans. So I had to go get a grinder.
Yeah, that's right. It is really good coffee. But Dave Asprey found that it was mold toxins in his coffee that were causing him a lot of problems. Now, I've said many times, I've tested that. I see no difference whatsoever. And that isn't to say that the coffee's not legitimate. It is. It's just that I'm not that sensitive to mold toxins. Some people are, some people aren't. I don't seem to be very sensitive to them at all. I notice no difference between those really clean brands of coffee and the Peets I buy because I like the taste. But for people who are sensitive, that can be a game changer.
Yeah, I'm very sensitive to all that kind of stuff. Supplementation, medication, allergies.
Yeah, see, I have a feeling that's where the brain issues are stemming from.
Yeah, mold, dogs, cats, grass, trees, pollen, you name it. Allergic to all of it.
It will, and there's a solution in there somewhere. We just got to find it.
All right, Kevin. I'll let you be so you can get somebody else.
All right. Talk to you soon. Let's go to Oklahoma. Paul, welcome.
Howdy. So the advice I give, some people will tell you it's worth what I charge. So people can take it or leave it.
Yeah, that's kind of how that's kind of how I look at my advice.
Yeah. So the lady that called earlier, I didn't hear the start of her call, but she measured her wheelbase. I'm wondering if she measured her wheelbase correctly.
Yeah, I was...
Because if she has a 6x4 tractor, did she measure to the center between the two axles, or did she measure from the center of the front wheel to the center of the rear?
Right. The reason I didn't get any deeper is because no matter how you measured, that number's not like that big of a deal, really. And here's the other thing.
The truck is what is.
We're not going to change it. Right. So it is what it is. That's not something we're going to go spend money to change. So I didn't really want to spend a whole lot of time on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the size of the sleeper can also, the size of the wheelbase and the size of the sleeper. Like if you got a 260 wheelbase, but you got a 36-inch bunk on it, or you got a 260 wheelbase with a 70-inch bunk on it.
Big difference.
It's going to be a difference.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I was going to say Joel is a 1%, but he's more like a 0.1%. You can't go comparing. Oh, well, Joel gets this, so if I get a truck that's spec exactly like his, I'll get the same. You probably won't.
You could drive Joel's truck, and you're not going to get the same.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping eventually to buy a Volvo that's spec'd out. It's obviously going to be different because it's going to be a car haul. It's going to start life as a day cab, but his running gear spec will be pretty close to the same. But I'm hoping to get 7 miles to the gallon, which would be really good for me.
Absolutely.
When Joel gets 7 miles to the gallon, it's like, what the hell is he dragging? I don't think he's ever gone that low.
Probably not.
When he did an idle test and it chopped down one time, but that was it. So
yeah. I remember one time he was out at the Bonneville Salt Flats doing stuff. Maybe he got it up to 100 out there, and his fuel mileage went down to 7.
Yeah, but I think that 600 Cat couldn't keep up with it at the high speed because the 600 Cat with no aerodynamics couldn't push through the wind.
No way.
Like his truck did.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah. So you have to take in a lot of things into account.
That's for sure.
So that's all I got today. I'll carry on.
All right. That's all I need. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Tennessee. Eric, welcome.
Hey, couple of things. I'll start with Melody. You let her get away with one thing. When you asked her what her fuel economy was, she said about 6.6 to 7.0. You didn't ask her if she's using your fuel gauges, which would help her. At least I didn't catch that. If you did,
no, I didn't. You're right. It just let's clarify. I had a feeling that was going to be one of those calls that if I went down too many rabbit holes, I wasn't going to finish it. So I wanted to stay on the big points. Normally, you're right. I don't get away. I usually don't let people get away saying my average is between. I don't care what the numbers are. Stop right there. Averages are never between anything. An average is an average. You gave me an average and a range. I just the average is fine right now, but I didn't want to get into.
I look at fuel gauges
minutia.
and I can say that my average is 6.73 miles per gallon.
That's it. It's one number. There's no range. That's what an average is, and that's why we use an average. It takes all of that into account. Now, if I'm really trying to diagnose a problem, I will look at the range. What's the lowest and why is it getting so low? What's the highest and what was different?
Sure.
But a lot of times people will say, my average is between. No, stop. Your average is not between anything.
Well, it's also a matter of where she's getting that number from, too. So we don't know what her fuel economy actually is because we don't know if she's just looking at her, truck's computer screen, then who the hell knows what her average actually is.
Well, that's changed a lot in the last 10 years. She's got a 2019 Volvo. Their fuel mileage gauges are pretty damn accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't see a whole lot of variance anymore from somebody who's tracking, every tank. We tend to find the newer trucks' fuel mileage gauges are within a couple of tenths almost all the time.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they've improved a lot.
I'm kind of wondering why you didn't suggest she make an appointment with Pittsburgh Power to get the engine clean, that foam thing that they do, and then the whole checklist. I forget what they call that, but the
Hawkeye.
I know Bruce would want her to do a manifold and a turbo and the radiator and all that stuff. But remember we used to, for $5,000, I can go into Pittsburgh Power and get all of this, and then probably get 1 mile per gallon or something.
Yeah, and
was that just part of you didn't want to hit her with too much at once kind of thing?
I didn't want to overwhelm her. I mean, I really didn't. And
yeah.
The big stuff that she could do right now, I'm kind of encouraging her to do herself. Just go buy this stuff and put it on herself. She was interested in learning how. This is a great way to learn.
Yeah, if she can install a FAST or whatever on her own, that'd be great. Sure.
FAST, that's one's a little tough. The AirDog's actually much easier to install than a FAST. That is an advantage of the AirDog. The installation is much easier. And I wouldn't have a problem recommending her trying to put on the AirDog. The FAST, I would say, don't try. It's a lot of work. You got to know what you're doing to get that one right. I still like both products, but as far as installation, the AirDog's a whole lot easier to do yourself. The OPS she could install, the Flow Below she could install, that'd be good for her.
Yeah, my company kind of went halfway, maybe not even halfway with the Flow Below. We've got the wheel covers, but we don't have the fins. And I'm like, okay, well, they're saving 1/10 of 1% with those wheel covers, but okay.
Well, if they installed 4 of them, they actually picked up 0.4%.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All
the numbers are 1/10 per wheel, 0.1%, not a tenth of a mile per gallon. Right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not really measurable unless you do unless you're checking a whole fleet at a time.
The only reason I know those numbers is because Schneider did like a 3-year test on thousands of trucks to come up with those numbers.
Exactly. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention was when you were talking about ALS, you actually kind of surprised me when you said that most of them start in the head, because when my father got ALS, they were saying that it's usually hands or feet, and his started in the hands.
I've also seen...
They said that actually if it starts in the feet, it goes quicker.
Yeah. Well, my father had an unusual case because he almost doubled the life expectancy after a diagnosis, and it took him a long time to diagnose it. So my father suffered with it twice as long as the average was. I've also seen reports that it starts in the chest, around the lungs. But a dragging
that
leg...
would be almost instantaneous then for a death sentence.
It's usually faster, yeah. My father actually...
As soon as ALS reaches the lungs, it's usually over right then.
Pretty much. My father started with vertigo. Vertigo is one of the first problems,
Really?
and vertigo is always really tough to diagnose. If it's not an inner ear problem, it's hard to figure out what it is after that. Then he started having some speech issues because he was losing the muscles in his jaw and mouth were starting to get paralyzed. And then his worked his way down. It just took a long time. It's a horrible disease. We now know that it's an autoimmune condition, so it is diet related.
Yes, but I was just listening to a podcast yesterday. I can't remember who it was, but they, damn it. Yeah, that's all right. Doesn't matter who it was. But they had said that they were talking to Sophia Clemens and the PKD people, the ones in Hungary.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Paleomedicina. And they said that ALS is still one of the ones they have the least amount of success with.
Oh,
and
no
they're
doubt.
the ones who are curing cancer and MS and everything.
No, I'm not talking about curing it because nobody really knows how. There hasn't been really any success. So, no, I'm talking about avoiding it in the first place.
Oh, okay.
If it's autoimmune,
yes.
it starts as leaky gut. So if we can get to people and fix leaky gut, then we don't have to try to cure these things later.
Right. Yeah. My father, he was a gunsmith, and his first notice of it was he started to get numbness in his fingers, and he started losing the ability to manipulate small things like screws.
Yeah.
And, there's lots of small screws in guns. And eventually it got to the point where he couldn't eat anymore because, like you said, the weakness in the jaw and the inability to swallow.
Right.
So he eventually had to have a stomach shunt. And unfortunately, not knowing what we all know today, he spent the last year of his life dumping Ensure into his stomach.
Yeah.
Instead of, he could have been blending up ribeye steaks and pouring them in, if nothing else.
Eggs work really well, but yeah, you're right. It's
liver.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the real key is with a lot of these autoimmune conditions is we have to try avoid getting them in the first place because almost all of them do damage to the body while we have it. So even if we can get rid of it, there's damage left over.
And there's so many conditions that all relate to the same damn thing.
Yep.
I mean, we don't have to try to fight an individual one before we get it. We just have to fight them all.
Yeah.
All at the same time.
Which really is leaky gut. I mean, that is the start of autoimmune conditions.
Sure. It still gets me every time I hear somebody there'll be a success story that Dr. Baker is talking to. And so many of these people are like, I was diagnosed with, oh, damn it. What's the one in the guts that they always say stop eating nuts?
No, I don't know.
Damn it. The pockets. The pockets that form in your intestines.
Oh, yeah. Now I just drew a blank on the word, too.
I know.
It's
You know
contagious.
the one. Somebody's shouting it into their radio.
Oh,
What?
100 people are shouting at us at the radio right now.
Normally I am. Normally I'm the one going, it's fucking, starts with a D.
Diverticulitis.
That one.
Diverticulosis.
Diverticulitis.
Yeah.
Losisitis. Yeah.
Right, depending on
but
how
it's
advanced it
every
is.
time they get diagnosed with it, they're told to, lower their meat intake. And I'm saying, what? What the fuck does meat have to do with it?
Well, in their minds, meat causes everything.
And I don't, even having read books like The Big Fat Surprise and all these other, the good calories, bad calories, I don't understand where the meat thing ever came about. Was it literally just the government trying to get us to cut back on meat because it costs too much? I don't know. It's the stupidest thing that I've ever heard anybody come up with.
Well, we have to go back to the heart hypotheses to begin with, that saturated fat and cholesterol causes heart disease. Well, what are the richest sources of saturated fat and cholesterol? Are animal products. So they told us to stop eating meat and eggs. And if we were going to eat meat, they wanted us to eat boneless, skinless chicken breast or a lean fish.
Yeah.
And it was a huge mistake.
Yeah.
It is the exact opposite. Those two macros, the protein and the fat, are what heal our body.
Yeah.
But that's where that started. That was the heart hypotheses that saturated fat and cholesterol was killing us. And then the obesity thing is because they still believe calories in, calories out. Well, if you believe that, the first macro you should cut out is fat, because fat has twice as many calories per gram than both protein and carbohydrates. So that was why we went to the whole low-fat thing. You were supposed to lose weight and be really heart healthy by eating Count Chocula in the morning instead of eggs.
I know. It's actually, it amazed me when along the time I've been listening to Dr. Chafee, he's American, but he's in Perth, Australia, that Australian cows are actually bred leaner. So you can't even get a fat cow in Australia in the first place, because that whole country was so into the low fat that they started breeding their cattle to have less fat.
Right, and let's look at the outcome. Because we did the same thing here. Remember, we turned pork into the other white meat. We made it next to impossible to cook because it was so lean. Nobody wants to eat it because it's like shoe leather. And then we told everybody you can't eat it rare or you'll get trichinosis. Well, that hasn't existed for about 40 years. But that's what we were told. You should be eating lean meat. Well, let's just look at the outcome. Who would you say has far more obesity? The United States and Australia, or Japan?
Right, us. Yeah.
And what did Japan do? What is Japan famous for when it comes to beef? Wagyu.
Beef?
Wagyu.
Kobe
and Wagyu. Those are Japanese cows that they bred specifically to be that fatty. If you take, this is what I love doing this. It's outrageously expensive. But if you get A5 Wagyu, I will take a slice of that raw and I will put it on my tongue and it melts like dark chocolate.
Are you aware of Steak and Butter Gal, Bella?
No.
Oh, well, you should look her up. She's a long-term carnivore that's a concert pianist who started being carnivore while she was at Juilliard. But she one time got a big old chunk of Wagyu from somebody, or maybe she just bought it on her own, I forget. It was like a pound. And she ate the whole thing in one sitting, and we were like, no, don't do that. She got sick from it because it was so much.
Of course she did. My God. And part of that sickness was sticker shock. I'd have to sell my coach to be able to afford a pound of A5 Wagyu.
No, it was just hilarious. It's like, yeah, fatty beef is good for you, but don't eat that much at once.
Well, normally you can't. Your body is pretty good at self-regulating. I can't eat too much fat, and too much fat you can overdo sometimes. if your fat digestion isn't good. But it's hard to overeat fat or protein. Your body stops you.
Well, and she's known for, I don't know if she does it anymore, but she used to just eat stick of butter once in a while. You know, I mean, she would, if she wanted to snack, she would snack on straight butter. So, you know, that's also, she's a butter eater, and she made herself sick eating that Wagyu because of the fat content.
Yeah, I can see it.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. So, well, I've talked about that when I'm on the road and I need to get a lot of miles in, and I don't like snacking when I drive, but I will put a stick of butter up there, and I will just take a big bite of butter once in a while. Keeps the appetite down all day long. Go. Yeah, I've done it. It's actually good. I like it.
Oh yeah, no, it is. Well, especially when you're hungry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, it's like you're getting pure nutrition. It's something that they use for like Arctic expeditions and stuff too.
Absolutely.
You know, if you need a lot of calories and, you know, you're in a cold environment, you take butter with you because, for one thing, you know, it doesn't take up as much space pound for pound as other foods do, and it's a shitload of more useful calories than other things you might carry.
It's nutrient dense, energy dense. It's what's the pemmican? Pemmican is the same idea. Pemmican is like beef jerky with more than 50% fat content.
Well, that's two different things. I mean, pemmican is a lot more fat with it. I mean,
butter's pure fat.
I've heard it done different ways. The pemmican I carry, it's not. I mean, it's the carnivore bar, you know, and it's kind of like imagine a stick of fat with really hard beef in the middle of it.
Right.
I like eating it when I'm hungry, but it kind of tastes like fat with gravel in it. That's what I was trying not to say. But it tastes good when you're hungry. So, you know. Yeah, no doubt. All right, I am going to move along. I've got to get to some calls here. We're going to head off to Indiana. Andrew, welcome.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for taking my call. Hey, I got one comment to make before I get off. That woman that you're talking to with the Cascadia, it wasn't a Volvo. When you're talking about the OPS, you still have to change that main filter, so that lady don't get confused.
And again, I was really trying not to overwhelm her with too much stuff. That could have turned into an hour phone call. When she gets the OPS on, we can talk about changing the full flow filters every other time. So 50,000 miles on the full flow filters, 25 on the OPS. If I gave her all that information, she's not going to remember it anyway. So it's easier to give her the highlights. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just don't want people coming back. Well, Kevin said, you don't change it,
Well, no, I didn't say that. I left that out by omission. There's a big difference.
Well, no, I think what it was is there was something said about the main filter, and you said
no. Well, she said that was an installation piece. She said you can leave the main filter on and install the OPS. That wasn't leave the filter cartridge in forever. And a lot of people believe this, that if this is an oil filter, it must replace the oil filters that's already on my truck. But that's not true, because this is a bypass filter that filters very slowly, and we need to have the full flow filters on there to maintain oil pressure. So, but the way she said it to me, she was questioning the installation of it, not the filter change itself.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood. I'll have to go back and re-listen to that. And then, another thing about those trucks, the mid-roofs like that pull and tanker with a longer wheelbase, a lot of them trucks also, too, don't have fairings on the back of the sleeper. And another thing, because I just bought a 2020 Cascadia with the DD13, and this truck has a direct drive trans with 228 gear ratio, and it's right at 1275 at 65 miles an hour. And before I bought it last week, I was messaging back and forth with Henry, telling him the specs, and he says, as long as you keep your trailer gap tight and, keep your RPMs in check, and he said that DD13 does like to run a few more RPMs than the 15.
No, I get that. 13 to me is still too high. We don't need to be cruising above 13 on these engines. The Series 60 maybe, but not the new DD13. I would want to be down in the 11 range, 11 or 12. But again, I didn't go there. I actually told her not to worry about the gear ratio. We'll deal with what you've got.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I was just saying when she was talking, 1300 at 65, I was just saying it's probably around a 228 with a direct drive. But on the passenger side door, it'll give that tag.
And here's the
It'll give
problem.
the gear ratio with this range.
Like the earlier call, we can't guess at this. Because you could say, oh, no, my 228s do exactly that. Well, but we don't know what your final gear ratio on the transmission is, and she did not know her rear end or the transmission. So there's no point in even talking about it at that point.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but all she's got to do is open up the passenger door, and there's a sticker in there that'll tell you if it's a direct drive or an overdrive and what the gear ratio is, and it's on the passenger door.
I know, but we didn't have that information in this call.
Yeah.
So that's why I gave her some things to do, gave her some homework, told her to call back next week. We'll do this a little at a time.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for the call. Let's
Thank you.
Let's go to Idaho. Andrew, welcome to the program.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
I'd like to start off just by saying how much of a blessing you are to everyone who hears you. You've really done a lot. You've stayed consistent with your messages. It's something that I appreciate about you, and also the fact that you're not so caught up in yourself and the information and the knowledge that you have that you still admit when you're wrong, if you're wrong about something, if you're misunderstood or things like that. So I appreciate that, because I hate it when someone is a know-it-all all the time and can never admit when they're wrong. So yeah, I think you do a really good balance at doing that. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I run into a lot of people who don't think that. They think I'm arrogant, that everything I say I believe I'm always right about. I hear that all the time. I really do.
Well, to be fair, most people are ignorant.
Yeah.
So, about a lot of stuff.
I really work hard to keep an open mind and not let my ego get in the way.
Right. Well, when you're as knowledgeable as you are, I imagine that's pretty difficult because you are right so often, right? And I went down this path at one point, and when people argued with me, I just asked them to pinpoint a time when I was last wrong. It was like the cockiest thing I could ever say.
You know what, though?
I'm trying to grow out of it.
Yeah, but you know what? That's not a bad approach. Because that's what I'll do sometimes. People will, and I can tell when they're just a hater. I mean, they're just looking for me to be wrong, and they'll call and say, "Oh, you think you're right all the time?" No, I'm not even sure where you get that from. But if that's the case, if you really think that, tell me a time that I was wrong, and let's discuss it. And I don't know that...
Yeah, exactly. Because I want to learn from it.
Absolutely. So I want to understand where you think I was wrong, that I won't change my mind if I see new evidence. And invariably, when I ask them that question, I get crickets. They can't point out a single thing that they believe I've said wrong.
Right, or they're off topic, know, something that's not even relatable. All right, so here's... I've been working on getting out of the habit of giving my opinion because if you give it to people who don't take it, take your advice, you do value what you have to say. So, but I do want to say something about Friday's show. But before I do that, I'd like your opinion on something. So we've spoke several times this year. I got my authority activated last December sometime. Got the truck on the road in January. I hired my dad as a driver. I'm working on getting another truck to hire my mother. They were already drivers, so very experienced. Anyways, one of my biggest fears is that, I don't know why it's a fear, but it could just be because it's my dad, and it's more like I'm babysitting him versus just, employer and employee relationship. But because he's childlike mentality and no critical thinking, and I have to hold his hand for a lot of things. However, I have this fear that because I'm not in control of that particular truck, that it's going to have this big accident. My father won't survive the accident, and so on and so forth. So it's got me thinking about term life policy. But as far as a business owner, is there something else that's better than a term life policy on him? Okay,
No.
so just go with the term of probably 20-year. He's 56. He's never had an issue getting his 2-year card. He doesn't take any prescriptions.
I
he's
would,
a little overweight, but
I would do a 10-year fixed term, not a 20. You are going to pay a lot more money every year for a 20 because that puts him at, what, 86?
76, yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
56.
Oh, he's 56. I would still go with the 10.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
what type of price range? I have a $2 million general liability policy.
Well, hold on.
I have an S corporate LLC.
Wait. I failed to do this in the right order. We got to step back. I answered the question that I may not even need to answer yet. Why are we insuring him?
Okay.
Who depends on his income?
I do.
No, you don't.
As a business.
No, you don't. And I hate to say this, but the reality is he's replaceable.
No, that is true. That is true. But if I get where you're going, so what you're getting at is that it could be a waste of money.
No, it will be a waste of money. Or and I just don't like the idea of this. Or it's a payout because your father died.
I don't know if I follow.
Well, it's almost like winning the lottery. Oh, look, I got $1 million because my dad died. Well, hell, insure the rest of your relatives too.
I have done that in the past, only because I knew what was to come.
Here's
with
the
estate
two cases life insurance makes sense. And the insurance companies never tell you this because they want you to buy life insurance on everybody, including your children, which is the worst idea ever. But
I agree.
We should stop calling it life insurance. We should call it income replacement insurance. That's what it's used for. If I am if I am a breadwinner in my family and I die, they can't replace me. I mean, sure, you go out and marry somebody else, but that's a little extreme. You know, you can't replace me as a human being. This isn't life insurance. What you can replace is my income. That's what we're doing with this insurance. We are ensuring that the people who need income from that person have income if they die. Not a lottery winning that they didn't really need, but if they need the income, then you insure somebody's life so that there's income going on. The other place, and this may have been what was in the back of your mind, in a partnership, many times the owners all have insurance on each other, and it's called key man insurance. Here's the reason why. I have a business partner, Erin. I love Erin's wife, but I do not want to be in business with her. That's not how the business was set up. It wouldn't work that way. So if Erin dies, I need to be able to buy out Erin's share of the business. And I may not have enough cash to do that depending on how big the business grows. So I put key man insurance on him. If he dies, I take that money and I give it to his wife to buy out his share of the business.
No, you hit the nail on the head with an earlier statement. It is the lottery. But I guess my thought is that with being a small carrier, of just getting started.
Before you go down this road, let me ask you a question. The next driver you put on, are you going to put $1 million insurance policy on them?
That was going to be another question for you. And
first off,
yes,
you can't.
Considered it. I could put an insurance policy on you, a term policy on you. I don't even need your permission to do it. But
it's a horrible idea.
It's
a horrible idea.
And that's why I was asking the difference between being a business owner and or getting just a policy. And I just want to preference this with the fact that it is my father. I do still drive in the business. I am the only one making the business move forward. Not only would I be dealing with a ton of insurance, a ton of backlash if somebody else was involved, the loss of my father, and obviously if someone dies in a semi-accident, the truck's probably totaled as well. So there's a lot to handle with that, and I have people who depend on my income and my income only, and that's why I was considering maybe putting a policy on him.
You put the policy on you if they need your income. Then you have the policy on you.
No, I understand. I have that in place.
The reason we call it Key Man Insurance. Look, I don't want this to come across the wrong way. My frontline employees, there's no way to say this, and it's going to sound bad. They're not what we consider key employees. It's easier to replace your frontline people. There are more people with those skills. Those kind of people quit all the time. You have to be ready to replace employees. But I can't replace Aaron. I mean, I can't. He's part of the business. He's an owner. He is key to this. Lisa can't be replaced easily. I can't be replaced easily. So the people it's either hard to replace them or almost impossible. I don't want another business partner. I really like working with Aaron. I don't want to replace him. But if he dies, I at least need the cash so that the business goes on. But that it's called Key Man Insurance for a reason. If we have employees, if we have a position where people come and go, and I can't think of a position that people come and go more than truck drivers, we would be insane to put insurance on them. We might as well just light our money on fire.
I think we're on the different pages here. I understand Keyman Life Insurance, and I have insurance for myself because my wife and kids depend on my income. I drive a truck full time, and if I were to lose, I'm not looking to get you to agree with me. I'm not
going
just looking to make sure that
because you're going to say if I lose my father, but you told me something about your father. You basically babysit him as a driver.
Again, the income to that portion of the business is solely on him. If I had the policy, I could step away from not only driving 3K a week myself, and get the process of replacing the truck, hiring somebody else, all of these things. Should I have something, what is it that I should have in place to supplement the lost revenue for the amount of time that it will take me to go through all of that process? Because I can't imagine that totaling a truck, losing a driver's life, and me having to be off the road would be a 1 or 2 week process. It's going to take some time to recover as a business.
Here's what you have in
what supplemental
cash. Just put cash aside.
Okay.
Take all that money you would have spent on premiums and just put it in the bank every month.
$50 a month on a premium isn't going to saving that isn't going to make a dent in taking any realistic amount of time.
Go buy a lottery ticket on your father then. Really, I don't have any more answers.
Okay.
I don't know of a single business that does this. Nobody.
Again, life insurance was just an example. I'm asking you if there's
cash. No, there's no other financial instrument. Take some cash and put it in a money market account earning 4 or 5% interest and forget about it. Okay. Look, you have insurance on the truck. The truck's going to get replaced. Sure, it takes a little bit of time. A month's revenue, and it shouldn't take you a month.
No, and I agree with you. I guess maybe I get a little too far ahead in my own head and don't explain everything to the fullest. But the truck's not worth anything. I bought $1 million plus. We put money into it. So if we totaled that truck or my truck at 1.7 million miles and 1.1 million miles, we're not really getting anything. And then I have to go out and buy a truck that is, comparable, and you could end up getting somebody else's junk. I know that mine aren't junk because I've spent years maintaining them.
But that could happen.
I get what you're saying. Just save cash.
There's 10 other ways that could happen to the truck. So yes, you always have the ability to replace a truck because we know we could lose one. You're talking about your father's life. Very different thing. And I'm kind of a stickler for this. I've talked about this in the past. My kids get nothing when I die, and they know that. I don't
Right.
want. I don't want anybody to have an incentive for me to die.
That's a good point. I joke with my wife all the time because I have $1 million policy on myself.
Well, so do I.
I told her, I said, don't start feeding me Kool-Aid.
So do I.
Or Drano or something.
I just make sure I'm worth more than $1 million alive.
Right. I agree with you.
I
wasn't considering it. I was just asking in general because, again, I know about Aflac. I don't have that supplemental income. So, like long-term disability, short-term disability, I wasn't aware. I wasn't sure if there was something as far as like a business goes. Because I know the bigger carriers, they put policies or accidental deaths or things like that on drivers. I don't know anything about that.
Who
so that's
does?
why I was asking if there's something there.
No. Hold on. You're confusing things. Those policies they put on their employees are for their employees' benefit, not theirs. Nobody puts long-term disability on an employee that the company gets money for.
Right. I think one of the different pages here. I'm asking if there's something that a business puts in place to supplement the crash of their business.
No. Just general insurance,
money, annuity or something like
insuring the truck, your assets, but then cash. What is your potential risk, and let's have some cash here. And your potential risk, honestly, is like $10,000 to $15,000 per truck. I mean, hell, that's cheaper than a one box today.
Yeah. Actually, just found a one box for $8,900, which I have to put one in. So it's $8,900. It's a full prefab kit. Takes 6 hours to put in, and it comes with a 3-year warranty and brand new DPF. So I was mind blown because the last time I bought a DPF, just the 2 filters was $4,200.
Yeah, no, that sounds.
I was actually pretty shocked on that.
Sounds like a good deal. Put some cash aside and don't overcomplicate this.
I got you, partner. Hey, can we talk about that show you had on Friday real quick?
Sure.
You had a couple of different people talking about fair driver pay and this overtime stuff. I have been racking my brain so much in trying to figure out how I can pay my dad something besides mileage. And I really, without having dedicated routes and dedicated customers, which I'm only 10 months in and we're doing great, but the variable expense is it's all over the place. I can't figure out how I would ever make a different pay system work. I listened to that show through annoyance because of the argument, hoping that somebody would say something that made sense. I know Joel's probably got a good operation. From what it sounds like he's got a dedicated customer, and things are pretty consistent on that front, which would obviously allow that to happen.
Not necessarily, but here's the thing. All we can do when it comes to employees, you look at what percentage of the revenue that they are getting paid by the mile. And you look at the rest of your profit. Is there any other profit in the business anywhere that you're willing to give up for an employee? And if there's not, then the reason you're not getting a good answer, nobody's figured one out yet. We're guessing at this stuff. We're trying things to see what happens. And it's difficult because here's the thing. Does anybody care if they get overtime pay, but at the end of the week, their check isn't much different than it was the week before?
No one's going to care.
Nobody
no
cares. So if we can't figure out how to pay the driver more than what he's making on mileage, why even bother?
Yeah, I agree. And I've, like I said, I've racked my brain. The best thing that I've come up with is I asked him, I said, one, I looked at his previous year's income and divided it by the number of days and weeks and whatnot that he was on the road. And I knew I could beat that for sure. So that was my first goal, was to make sure that he didn't like sitting. So I said, okay, well, we'll make sure we run you really hard, if that's what you want. So, and then I asked him what he thought a fair rate per mile was. And then I just did the math and I ran all the numbers and it made sense. So I pay him that. I pay him for the little things, if he's sitting at a dock door, if he has to do a restart out on the road, if he has to throw chains or shut down due to weather, I try to compensate for those things. To a degree, right? Because some people would be like, $500 if I have to shut down, for weather. And it's like, I don't. Some people are out of control with their desires, But one thing I wanted to mention, and I don't know if Joel considered. He kept saying 36% increase on his payroll, but is that considering the payroll tax, the all the other things that increased workers' comp, because they base that based on
percentage, right? We didn't get into that kind of detail.
Did he consider all of that?
My guess is, knowing Joel, that yes, he did.
Okay, because I was going to say that could be closer to 50%.
You're right.
When you increase pay by 50%, that's decreasing profit for the business, and which could, potentially, stop you from growing. Or, a ton of things.
That's my point about the whole hybrid pay model, different pay model. For most operations, the problem is they can't increase the driver pay at all. So why even mess with a hybrid system? It's just going to confuse things, and if they end up with the same pay, nobody cares. The goal is to figure out how to get driver pay up. The challenge is, if you're the only one doing it, you better be damn good at cutting costs everywhere else, and Joel is. I mean, Joel is the ideal guy to try this. He's got profit in his operation. He can pay the drivers more. And to go to a hybrid hourly mileage system for him is a good idea. He's not at a big risk. But most of the small fleets I look at, there isn't a penny more per mile to be found anywhere.
And then of course, if you were to do something along those lines and rates plummet, then you have to go back to square one and recalculate everything, and you can't take money away from a driver or an employee. They're gonna quit. So that's the tough part. I don't know what's wrong. He argued on Friday as if he had all the answers while agreeing and admitting that he didn't have any of the answers. It was pretty dogmatic about it when the other guy stepped on the line and started disagreeing with him.
Well, here's the thing. He doesn't know for sure yet. He's trying to work it out, but the guy saying it can't work doesn't know either. That's really what Joel was pushing back against. Joel isn't saying I'm absolutely right and you're wrong. He's saying neither one of us know. And we got to go play around with this. And it's kind of like my theory of ready, fire, aim. Joel got ready. He knows there's enough profit in his operation. He can play around with pay and see what works. He pulls the trigger, and now he'll start aiming.
Yeah, the one thing that I've done with my data is, like, I'll get these incredibly stupid rates from time to time. Don't get me wrong. I've pulled the $1.50 stuff, which is fine. I still make a profit. But when I get something that's like astronomical, 3+ a mile, which, believe it or not, is still happening.
Yeah.
I'll tell them, hey, listen, I can throw a little extra your way, and I do it. So because it's not that big of a deal. My number one goal is to make my driver happy.
Absolutely.
Because I understand the turnover costs a lot, especially if I'm out here trying to turn $3,000 a week myself on my dedicated run. I don't have time to go interview. I have to take off to do that. So it's an even larger cost than somebody who's already working in the office atmosphere.
Let me give you another approach, and it's not to say you're just going to wake up tomorrow, turn a switch, and this is going to work. This is something you're going to have to work towards, and I think the entire industry should start working towards this. Get them home more often, and they won't complain about the pay as much. They will be happier with the pay if you can get it. When I could get my drivers home every night and they didn't work weekends or holidays, not only did I have zero turnover, I had a waiting list of drivers.
Yeah, I took $1,000 a week pay cut where I'm currently at in my truck because I'm home every week for 3 days straight.
Yeah,
it's routine, and that was worth it to me. The other thing you could do, which is what I've done, is hire somebody who just wants to live in the truck.
Oh, that's another.
So if they live in the truck,
absolutely.
Very low expenses.
Yeah, no, that's another strategy.
And so both my parents live in the truck, And my goal, because they've done nothing with their life, nothing, no retirement, they didn't set themselves up in any way. So they're going to work until they can't possibly work, or until they can figure out how to make Social Security work when they're old enough to take it, you know?
Right.
So I feel like I'm helping. Not what I told them. I said, you guys are never moving in with me, because I've been giving them advice for 10 or 15 years and haven't been taking it. So now the opportunity is, well, at least I'll create a business that benefits me and can help you out throughout the next 15 years of your life, because you haven't helped yourself. You know, so, and it kind of works out. And so my goal is to get them to, you know, stay stable while living in the truck. They can take time off at my house, you know, and see the grandkids, but they can't move in. And hopefully they'll start listening at some point, saving the money so that they can have a little bit of something when they get to the point where they can't work anymore. You know, if I was wealthy enough, I'd just buy them a house. And
no, I know.
But I'm not.
Right.
So,
Yet.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that's, is a true statement. I'm well on my way. What's your opinion on 2 trucks? I think we're going to hit about $500,000, a little bit more than that in growth this year. Total mileage about 230,000-ish between the 2 trucks.
Those are rock solid numbers.
Okay. Yeah, I get really excited every now and then when I get the $3, but I've honed in on not running just load board stuff, which is crazy because it was incredibly difficult to get freight when my authority wasn't 90 days old and 6 months old, which is why I didn't leave the...
All right. I don't know what happened there. We just lost all the audio on that call, and then we lost the call. We were pretty much done with that call. I'm going to wrap this up for the day. We're coming up right up on the 3-hour mark here. I do want to spend some time here with David and the crew here. So I am going to wrap this up for today, and we will see you back here tomorrow for the Power Hour. Be safe, be profitable, be fit and healthy. Always do the hard work and master the journey.